You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, it's another episode of 91 Reasons. Here we are back again for a journey into the twisted landscape of what is becoming not just pop culture, but my brain and my experiences outside of the pop culture arena. I just posted, a few days ago, I posted the episode called Drunks. If you haven't listened to that, or you skipped it because it wasn't exactly what you were looking for, that's okay, because it wasn't what a lot of people were looking for. And I got a lot of reviews that were, it was different, not what I was expecting. And then I got a bunch that were simply, I can't believe I didn't know this about you, or I can't believe you were able to share this the way you were. And it's all great, you know, whether you like it or not, whether it touched you or affected you, or you were mildly irritated that it wasn't about movies or something. That's fine. That's fine. We're on this journey together. So some episodes will be exactly what you're looking for, and others will be maybe not what you were looking for, but you know, like a store that you walk by and you're not sure, you go in and maybe you find something that you like. You know, that didn't happen to me at the mall. What's that clothing store that looks like a restaurant? The clothing store that's got like a fake house out front and a rocking chair or something. You go in there and it's like, this is not what I was looking for, chicken strips, and all you have in here is clothes that people wear in like Axe ads. So not my thing, but you get the idea, right? So what are we going to talk about this week? Well, if you see by the title, we're going to talk about Batman. A lot of people were asking me when I was going to do a Batman episode. Well, you're in luck, because here we are. In the summer of 1989, you could not escape that Batman was coming. In fact, you can back it all the way up to probably November of 1988, when word got out that this movie was finally going into production, that Michael Keaton had been cast as Batman, and oh, did the fans have a complete hissy fit, a nightmare fit about Michael Keaton, like the guy from Beetlejuice. We just saw him as Beetlejuice. How is he Batman? You know, he's Mr. Mom. He's not Batman, is what everybody was saying. Now, a small movie came out called Clean and Sober. And if you haven't seen that, it's worth looking at. It's a pretty dramatic movie about Michael Keaton plays a guy who's an alcoholic who basically he wakes up next to a dead woman, and he has to get his life back in order. Not to just avoid going to jail, but he's on a one-way course to killing himself through alcohol, and it ends with him getting into Alcoholics Anonymous and getting a chip, and it showed that Michael Keaton had chops. He had done a few minor roles here and there, but mostly he was known for comedy. You know, Johnny Dangerously, Mr. Mom, The Squeeze. Right before Batman came out, there was a movie that came out called The Dream Team, where he played a guy that's kind of crazy, and him and a bunch of other crazy people from an insane asylum get lost in New York. It's a really cute movie. Worth watching because Keaton's great, and so is Christopher Lloyd. So, you know, that's got everything I like in it, all my favorite people. But it was hard in 1989 to escape that this Batman movie was coming out. It wasn't a movie. It was a movement. It was an event. It was an extravaganza. It was one of the first. You know, we'd had big summer movies. There's no doubt. Jaws, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Return of the Jedi, Gremlins, Goonies, Back to the Future. You know, each summer has one or two, you know, must-see movies. But I cannot remember a movie more must-see than Batman was. The idea was, if you didn't go see Batman, you were not human. You were not American, darn it. This was the biggest thing going. I remember reading Premiere Magazine. Yeah, remember Premiere Magazine? Premiere Magazine used to be the Bible for people who liked movies. We waited each month because whatever was on the cover, that was the big thing, man. Premiere Magazine was it. This is before Entertainment Weekly. You know, Premiere Magazine was it. And Premiere Magazine said, they had an interview about Batman, and then an interview with Tim Burton, who said he was at a diner in like Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the waitress was wearing a Batman button. He knew right then that this was bigger than anything he could comprehend. And he'd had a mild hit with Pee-wee's Big Adventure and a bigger hit with Beetlejuice. And you got to admire the studio for taking a risk on giving Tim Burton, this weird director, this giant comic book movie. I think they just sort of looked at Batman, and this is the upper levels of Warner Brothers, because I've seen all the documentaries and how the people who really believed in this project for over a decade, they knew what kind of movie they wanted to make. They had to convince the studio that it was a movie they wanted to make. And so what happened is, and I'm not telling you people anything that you probably don't already know, Batman is so ingrained in our culture, but they compromised in that they were not going to make either the Adam West sort of campy Batman, right? But they also weren't going to make anything close to Richard Donner's Superman. Richard Donner's Superman was bigger than life. It was day-glow, and it was patriotic. No. The Batman movie they were going to make was a Tim Burton movie through and through. Him and Anton Furst, who was the production designer, crafted this Gotham that was German, it was dark, it was expressionistic, and it changed everything. If you look at Batman, it's almost a period movie. If it weren't for a few things here and there that really cement it in the 80s or the late 80s, it would almost be like a 40s movie with the headstrong reporter, see, we're going to go out and get that scoop, see? I think my impression might have been better than anything Robert Wuhl did in the movie, right? But you've got the reporter and the big paper, the big city paper, and they're doing a report on this guy, and Batman is sort of this shadowy figure. So, and you look at the way they all dress. They're all in double-breasted suits and fedoras and Tommy guns, right? So I worked at the video store. And hopefully you've heard that episode, the video store episode, because I talk all about the adventures of what it's like to work at the video store. And one of the perks of that was that every week when the new movies came out, we had first crack at them. Now, there was a movie that came out called Everybody's All-American with Dennis Quaid and Jessica Lange. I think it was directed by Taylor Hackford. Why I'm giving this information, I have no idea. But I am, you know what I am? I am a tiny sliver of what John on the Hollywood Saloon was. Because Andy would always refer to him as the human internet movie database, right? I can't take that title. That John has that title. But in my own twisted genre way, I can have a little piece of that pie, a little sliver of that, right? So this movie comes out, Everybody's All-American. We have no desire to watch it, except on the tape is the Batman trailer, the big one, where the guy, he grabs him and he pulls him up and he goes, "What are you?" And he goes, "I'm Batman." And you see the Batmobile, and you see Jack Nicholson go, "Nice outfit." Oh my God. You know what? Conservatively, me, John, Randy, Dave, Joe, Rich, we must have watched this trailer 1,000 times, over and over and over. It was our first glimpse of this thing that we knew was going to change our lives. We got a poster in at the video store of Clean and Sober, and we hung it right at the video counter where we checked in movies. And the reason we did that, we took a magic marker and we drew the bat suit on him. And we would just stare at it and squint like, it's Batman, right? It's Batman? Yeah, it's Batman. It's Clean and Sober. No, it's Batman. Customers would laugh at us. We were hooked. We fell for every ounce of the marketing machine that was the 1989 Batman. And I'll tell you why. If you've got if you went to Comic-Con this last summer, 2014, in the souvenir guide, they celebrated 75 years of Batman. And in it, I actually got an article printed where I talked about what it was like to go see Batman opening night. we went and saw it at the midnight showing because, that was the thing to do back in the day, man. But you had to get that. I mean, it's funny because it wasn't even like now where you go, I got to go see it because otherwise I'm going to go on the internet and someone's going to spoil it. No, there was none of that. It was a social thing of going to the movies with your friends and everybody sharing in this experience. And the thing with Batman is that it came out, the midnight showing, on the same exact day that I graduated high school. So you could imagine the lead up to that of both of those major life-changing events. And yes, if you're keeping score, I just compared the release of Batman to graduating from high school. But the lead up to that was excruciating. We were talking, you had to turn in your books. You had to get your cap and gown, Batman. You had to make sure your senior obligations were paid up, Batman. You had to get your yearbook, Batman. You had to get it signed by all your friends, Batman. You had to make plans for the summer because some of these people you were never going to see again, Batman. And in the background, sort of like chugging along, like a train following you down the highway. Like you're driving down the highway, but you look to your right or left, and there's that train following you. That train was Batman. Batman was coming. We couldn't believe it was the same day. So we got up early that day. We went down to the stadium. We rehearsed, and we did the excruciating walk down the aisle, to get your diploma in 100-degree weather here in California. It was a big day because my brother didn't graduate, so this was my mom's first chance at seeing one of her kids walk the aisle and get that diploma. And I thought she was going to explode, right? And if you've listened to the Drunks episode, you know that my mother's boyfriend showed up wearing school colors. And by school colors, I mean a pair of purple pants and a gold shirt. What a party. Anyways, I walked the line. I got my diploma. I've got the pictures to prove it. I got the diploma somewhere. Big deal. But immediately following that, we had to hit all the parties because I ran with a big group of guys who were all central out of this trailer park in Norwalk. I lived on Studebaker and Rosecrans, but everybody lived in the Talk O' the Town trailer park. So we had to visit all these parties. My mom had a party, and Randy's mom had a party, and John's mom had a party, and we had to go to these parties, and okay, we're having cake, and we're being congratulated. Everybody's getting envelopes full of money and pin sets and whatever you give graduating seniors in 1989. If you ask kids now, oh, you must have got a Rubik's Cube and some spandex day-glow outfits. It's like, no. It's not like everybody in the 50s always wore a poodle skirt. Yes, the 80s were a different time, but they were still on Earth, and you still had to do things. But yes, I probably wore my acid-washed jeans and my Batman shirt, because if you did not have a Batman shirt to go to this movie, you better not, you shouldn't even show up. And he better just not show up, right? So it became a contest between me, John, Randy, Dave, Joe, the whole gang, to find the coolest, most unique Batman shirt. Everybody had the shirt with just the yellow symbol. I mean, that was cool, but that was easy to get. I remember I found one that was of the Joker, and it wasn't Nicholson, it was the comic book Joker. And I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing. And we all had individual Batman shirts, right? So finally, all the parties end. All the graduation festivities have come to a close. And it's time to run out to the theater. Now, we went out to the La Mirada Gateway Theater, which I don't think is even there anymore. And the line was around the block, so we're in line for like 2 or 3 hours to see this movie. And it's me and John and Randy, Dave, Joe, Rich, Chris, his sister. Like, we're all there to see this movie. And I'll tell you what, the lights dimmed and the movie came on and we fell in love, because it was a great movie. If you look at it now, yes, it has a lot of problems, but on that perfect night in 1989, graduating, being with friends, knowing that we had just graduated, so we weren't going to see everybody Monday morning at school. If we didn't make plans to stick together, we weren't going to. So I look at that night at Batman, that June summer night, 1989, as almost the last time I was with all of my friends. We were all there. We took up almost an entire aisle at the theater. You know, popcorn, Coke, candy, hot dogs, the movie, you know, trailers for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and whatever else was coming out that summer that we just didn't care about because Batman was coming and it was going to be right here that night. But after that, everybody had to grow up. Everybody had to get a job. Everybody had to move on. Sure, we were going to see Batman again and again. And what happened is we all started seeing Batman, like 2 would go here, 2 would go there. But the last time we were all together was that screening of Batman. And he didn't get out till after 2 in the morning. And we were exhilarated, you know. Yes, the movie has, like I said, it has its problems. Anytime Robert Wuhl is on screen, you want to claw your eyes out. Kim Basinger's not very good. But the movie itself, you know, they got a lot right. A lot right. Sure, we had to go through the origins, and that became, gosh, didn't that become the superhero, what's the word we're looking for, crutch for years to come? You can't just have a movie about a superhero. You've always got to show his origin. Even if you're rebooting and we already know it, you got to show it again. I'm talking to you, Batman Begins and Amazing Spider-Man. One good, one bad. I'll let you pick which one I'm talking about. But, you know, the movie opens, he's Batman, which is great. You don't have to, it's not like in Superman, he doesn't become Superman for nearly an hour into the movie, right? Batman, it was the first 10 minutes. There he is. Now, we'll get to his origin later, of course. But it was nice to see him right at the beginning as Batman. And it has all these mafia overtones where Jack Napier is the right-hand man of Boss Grissom, and they're running the town. It's all designed to make Gotham this oppressive place. It was cool to see Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, and we, like, our mind reeled, like, is he really going to be Two-Face? Because we knew the comics, you know? Leading up to it, you know, I've talked all about that 89 movie, but the reason we were so excited about this new take on Batman is that my generation, even more so than the 60s generation, because the 60s generation grew up with Batman. He was on, I think, twice a week with the Adam West show, you know? But my generation, I would get home from school 3 o'clock, and there'd be, you know, an hour of homework, an hour of cartoons, and then 5 o'clock, bam, there was Batman. 5 o'clock, Batman was on for an hour. It was on every day, 5 days a week. I watched every episode. I fell in love with that show. I loved the Adam West Batman. And the coolest thing about the Adam West Batman was tuning in, you were assured, you know, superhero action, the coolest car on TV. I'm looking at you, Kit. Sorry. Adam West had the coolest car on TV, right? Great villains, right? But the bonus was if you were watching the credits and the Bat Cycle at the end went by and you knew Batgirl was going to be in the episode, because that was even better. It was a great show with Batman. It was an even better show with Batgirl. I every night, 5 o'clock, without fail, sitting down watching Batman, you know, both episodes till 6 o'clock. Fantastic, right? So he'd grown up with the character. He just meant so much. You know, I read the comics a little bit. I have to tell you, I was more of a sci-fi guy than a superhero guy in my early days. But in 1989, Star Wars had run its course. Indiana Jones was on the big screen in what we considered to be his last hurrah, you know. At the end of Last Crusade, Indy and his dad ride off into the sunset. And boy, wouldn't it have been great if he had just stayed in the sunset. Crystal Skull. But that all changed when Batman came out in 89, because by then I had already read Dark Knight Returns, which is fantastic. I had already gotten into how great The Watchmen was. So seeing Batman on the big screen just sort of ignited, like, it wasn't me. This was the entire nation. Batman comics were huge again. The toys were in every toy store. Every store had Batman buttons, keychains, window stickers, you name it. They had the Joker, Robin, and Batman on suction cups that you could stick on your car, like Remember that stupid Garfield you stick to your window? This was like that, except it was Batman holding on to like the bat rope, and you'd stick him on your window. We had all that stuff. Working in the video store, all that applause merchandise would come in every movie, but especially for Batman, because I think Batman might have been the first movie where they realized they could license both the movie and the comic book property. So everybody was making money. And most consumers weren't even aware there was a difference between the two, you know? But that movie unspooled on the big screen, and we got to see some weird scenes of Bruce Wayne hanging upside down like a bat. I don't know. And we watched Jack Napier get dropped into the chemicals to become the Joker. And then big moments, you know, big moment when the Batmobile appeared. You know, people went nuts when the Joker appeared. You know, this was a movie where there was so much applause. You mentally said to yourself early, I'm going to have to see this again because I can't even hear what's going on the screen. People are screaming and yelling. It's Batman. Where does he get those wonderful toys? You know, we loved this movie. We went and saw Batman at least 10 more times that summer. I remember working at the video store and having the boss, John English, come out and go, well, boys, I'm leaving early. I'm going to see Batman. And, like, we were happy he was leaving the shop, but we were unhappy that we weren't the ones going to see Batman. It was fantastic, you know. And, yes, we love the ending, even when Batman targets the Joker in the Batplane. Let's talk about the Batplane for a minute, you know. This is a time when there was nobody spying on the movies the way they are now. And we had no idea on that first showing that he had the Batwing. We knew he had the Batmobile because they'd shown that in the trailer. We had no idea he was going to come out in that airplane and be silhouetted against the moon. I mean, it was so good it became the cover for the Danny Elfman score, you know. Batman had 2 soundtracks. It had the amazing Danny Elfman score. But it also had the music inspired by Batman the movie, featuring Bat Dance. And who didn't listen to the Bat Dance? One of the first songs to feature audio clips from the movie in the song, and you needed something to keep you listening to that crap. But we bought them all. We listened to Keeping Vicky Waiting and 200 Balloons. You know, that's the song that plays when the Joker's parade is going down the street. Trust, who do ya? Trust, what makes you real? I mean, it's so ridiculous. And he goes, money, 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 who do you love? Fantastic movie. Nicholson nailed it, you know. When we get into the further down the line, there is another Joker. But at the time, nothing compared to Jack Nicholson. And I know there's an anecdote of him in the trailer getting ready to go to the set with Michael Keaton getting dressed as Batman. And he looked at Michael Keaton and he said, you know, this is one of those movies where you kind of just let the outfit do all the work. And isn't he right? Because all he has to do is stand there and he's the Joker. And they dressed him in that beautiful purple suit. They changed it up with the beret for the museum scene. And then the really funny mime scene where he throws the feather in that guy's neck. The Joker had some great looks. What the Joker didn't have was a lair. You know, that's weird to think now. I mean, I know that Heath Ledger's Joker didn't have that either. But at the time that these movies came out, it was about selling toys, play sets, you know. Wayne Manor opens up into the Batcave, right? And I know that Toy Biz had the license for the first Batman movie, and they made really crappy toys. They made the Bat figure where it had big metal joint sticking out of it, and his belt was a grappling hook, you know. And they made Bob the Joker's goon. Like, who wants this figure? Why are they making this? When the Joker finally made it to shelves, he didn't look like the Joker. He looked like the thing that you ordered at Jack in the Box. You know, the figures weren't very good. They eventually redid a couple of them and tried to make them look better, but Batman toys wouldn't. And they did a really okay job on the Batmobile, and it had the little plastic cocoon you could put over it to make it look like it had been locked down, right? But the Batman toys wouldn't really matter until Kenner got the license for the sequel. But Batman broke every box office record it came out. You know, you don't need me to tell you that. But what I can talk about was how quickly it came to home video. Batman at the time may have been the quickest turnaround from theatrical release to video release, and I think it was less than 6 months. We were really shocked when Batman was announced. It's already coming out, and not only is it coming out on home video, but it's going to be priced at like $4.99 or less. The Batman original release came out. Our store, Multivideo, we got, I'm not kidding, maybe 200 rental copies. And what a hassle this was, because when they came in the mail, the truck delivered them. They were sealed in plastic, just like any other videotape, right? So we had to open them, put a barcode on the actual cassette, put that in a plastic case, put it on the shelf. The video box had to be stuffed with styrofoam, or later they actually used cardboard, and then we had to shrink wrap that so the styrofoam or the cardboard didn't fall out. So I have a picture of me eating pizza next to the shrink wrap machine that I remember so well, because we had to shrink wrap all of those Batman boxes, and that meant putting them in the plastic sleeve, pulling the arm down to heat seal it twice, 2 different directions, and then using a mega industrial type hair dryer to melt the plastic onto the box. What a hassle. You'd burn your fingers, it would stink, it took such a long time. And this was every week we did this with movie releases. But the Batman one was far and away like the most we'd ever had to do for a single title. And it was crazy too, because we didn't think anybody was even going to rent these movies, because you could rent it for $2 or buy it for $5. Who wouldn't just buy it? Well, you'd be surprised. Some people don't want to make that commitment. So the day it came out, we were selling them every 10 seconds and rented them all out. There's a line around the building to get Batman. It's like, didn't everybody just go see this in the theater? Wait, there's people who missed it? You didn't see it in the theater? Oh, we're waiting for home video. Well, normally you wait a year. I mean, I couldn't do that. Well, some people are more patient than I am. I guess I'd never be a Jedi with that kind of patience, right? And it was a big deal when it came out on video. I remember that the Multivideo bought a Batman costume, and they got Randy Villani, my friend, to wear it and like take pictures with people. You know what? And they had another guy that wore it who's actually got a mustache. I'll see if I can dig up my picture of me with Batman, with mustache Batman. And I have a mullet and acid wash jeans and a Batman t-shirt and high top Converse, yes. A child of the 80s through and through. I even borrowed that Batman costume to wear that Halloween. And I have to tell you, I put it on and I looked ridiculous. I didn't have the physique for Batman. Even with remember the Michael Keaton Batman suit? The muscles are like part of the suit. It looks ridiculous. It's whatever, right? But I wore it, and I went out trick-or-treating with the Penguin and Catwoman. I don't know how I got out of work. I'm sure the video store was open late that night, We're in horror movies. But we rented all those copies to death, and then eventually they went on sale used for like 98 cents. There were enough Batman tapes that you could have, if you'd have gotten them all, you could have probably used them as bricks and built a mansion. Everybody had Batman. Batman was a title that was not only stocked by, Kmart, Walmart, Target, video stores, but even bizarre places like you could go to a gas station and they would have a little display of copies of Batman. I can remember just going into a convenience store and like next to the cigarettes there's Batman. And talk about brand recognition. The original release for Batman, the title isn't even on the front of the box. It's just the bat symbol. And on the back, I don't think there's hardly any text about what the movie's about. It's simply Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. And that's it. A little bit of, the big movie comes to home video. Like, sometimes they do that because they're ashamed of the movie. Like Last Action Hero doesn't tell you anything. The original video release, you weren't even sure what movie it was, right? But Batman didn't have to, because everybody knew. The marketing had already worked for Batman. We knew all about it, and we suggested it, and we sold it, and we bought more than one copy because we were stupid. and I bought it on Laserdisc because I wanted it in stereo. You know? Fantastic. Life-changing movie. Isn't that funny? Like, you can do the signpost of movies through your life, you know? Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future, Roger Rabbit. You know, I put that Roger Rabbit in there. I put RoboCop in there. And the 80s were capped off by Batman. Nothing mattered that summer. And it was a good summer for movies. That was the summer of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Weekend at Bernie's, Great Balls of Fire. I went and saw all of them. I couldn't wait. I saw Great Balls of Fire twice in the same day. That's how dumb I am. A story for another time. So Batman closed out '89 by being on everybody's Christmas list to buy. You know, it was the summer must-see and the Christmas must-buy. That's what every studio executive dreams of, don't you think? It was inevitable they were going to do a sequel. Inevitable. We just knew it. We'd have to wait 3 years, 1992, for Batman Returns to come out. Now, I can remember seeing in Starlog and Premiere Magazine some inklings of what it was going to be about, but they kept quite a bit under wraps. The first impression I had of Batman Returns was the poster, and it was the bat symbol, but it was being pelted by snow. And it was very striking. You know what? I take it back. That was the second poster. The first poster was just the top of the bat ears of the symbol. And it was only out for a couple of weeks because people hated it. It was ugly, it was boring, it was plain, and they yanked it and replaced it with that much better oval one of the snow pelting it, because this was going to be a movie set in the winter. Tim Burton had this great idea of juxtaposing the Batmobile's hotness, you know, with its fire turbine in the back, against a snow backdrop, right? So that poster captured it perfectly, and it was followed up by some amazing posters. You know, the design work, and I think Stan Winston did the Penguin. The design work of the Penguin and Catwoman and the redesigned Batsuit were all featured prominently in big bus stop posters. These were posters you wanted to steal. And I know that the Catwoman poster was stolen quite a bit because they interviewed one of the producers who said, well, that's how we know the marketing is working, if they're stealing the posters. But the first image we had, that Catwoman image, how do you not fall in love with that? You know, it's a new take on Catwoman. It's Michelle Pfeiffer, an actress we all respect. And this wasn't a schlocky casting decision at all. They did amazing work casting the Bat villains. At least for the first two movies they did, right? There was no denying that Danny DeVito was a perfect choice for the Penguin, and that Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, who starts out as a nebbish secretary and becomes this domineering, dominant Catwoman, was inspired casting, you know. And let's not forget that in the first movie, Vicki Vale was originally cast with Sean Young. Sean Young was Vicki Vale, and she injured herself horseback riding, had to bow out of the movie. So when it came time to do part 2, Catwoman, they cast Annette Bening. Annette Bening was Catwoman. Remember when Annette Bening had a career? And she was huge. And she was Catwoman. Ah, but she got pregnant. And she was out of the picture. And that meant Sean Young needed to come in. So Sean Young dressed up as Catwoman and stalked Tim Burton and the producers all over the Warner Brothers lot. This was a huge story at the time. Could you imagine it happening now? A big actress running around in a superhero costume begging for a role? That would be awesome. You know, I wish there was full video footage of Sean Young in her Catwoman outfit. I would love to see that. That kind of crazy is hard to define without video proof. Pics or it didn't happen, man. But yeah, they ended up finally casting Michelle Pfeiffer, who was fantastic in the role. You can't even imagine Annette Bening playing it. That's how good Michelle Pfeiffer is. They added Christopher Walken as Max Schreck. He's great, you know, as Batman's nemesis, as more as Bruce Wayne's nemesis, as I say in my awful Christopher Walken impression. And you know what was showcased really good in Batman Returns, right at the get-go, is Michael Keaton's portrayal of Bruce Wayne is very good. When he flings the report about the energy usage across the room over at Walken, he just gives off that, I got money, I got power, I don't care about you, you're not going to bully me. It's very good. It's very good, right? But let's go back to the beginning of the movie. The beginning of the movie, Batman Returns, opens with the origin of the Penguin. We all know it's the Penguin. And pay close attention because that's Pee-wee and Simone from Pee-wee's Big Adventure as the Penguin's parents in a fantastic moment that even first viewing I was like, oh my God, it's Pee-wee and Simone. They finally made it to Paris together, or at least Gotham City. But when the movie finally opens, the Red Triangle Gang attacks Gotham, and what's great is they turn on the bat symbol, and the signal goes across the sky, and they cut to Wayne Manor, right? And this is a pivotal moment right here, because a lot, as kids, you don't really pick up on this. And again, if you're new to 91 Reasons, I may get some things a little off because I don't take any notes. I didn't just watch Batman Returns. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But movies are about the emotion that it instills in you and the moments that you choose to take with you out of the theater. And if a movie has 5 or 6 of those, it's a masterpiece, If it's got those moments that you just can't shake, that's what makes a good movie, All the explosions in the world do not equal 2 people having a conversation. And to digress just for a second, put all the explosions in a Transformers movie, all the amazing cars turning into robots, right? And juxtapose that against the simple scene at the end of The Sixth Sense where Haley Joel Osment is talking to Toni Collette about the Bumblebee pin and how he's been talking to Grandma and Grandma watched her dance. I mean, it's just dialogue. And that scene is magic because we care about the characters. And you leave the theater going home with that scene in your heart of things are bigger than you thought, And how I'm comparing it all to Batman, I don't know. But the opening scene of Batman Returns, when we finally see Bruce Wayne, what is he doing? He is sitting in a chair doing nothing. Here's a guy who has billions of dollars, can date any woman he wants, and all he's doing is sitting there waiting for the moment to be Batman again. I'd like to think that he's been sitting there since 1989. He's been sitting there 3 years waiting for another big event so he can put on the cape and cowl and do what he swore on his parents' death that he would do. It's a great scene. It's shot well. The way it comes into the Wayne Manor, and you can see him sort of look up, almost Clark Kentish with glasses, right? Dare I say that? And then there's some interesting scenes right there at the beginning when Batman finally gets to Gotham and he fights the Red Triangle Gang. They want to let you know right off the bat that things are different. The suit is different. It no longer looks like human muscle, but instead is reptilian. Like it looks like armor. It finally looks functional. It's not like they're trying to make us believe that Michael Keaton suddenly is buff. No, now it's functional armor. The Batmobile looks good. And watch those first few moments and see what Batman does. There's a guy with a bomb that he knocks over who dies. Some guy's shooting fire at him. He hits a button. The Batmobile gets up on its platform, spins around, and what does he do? He blasts the afterburner at this guy. At the beginning of Batman Returns, Batman is killing people. I don't think it's ever even discussed what he's up to. Because in Batman, the Joker is undone by his own machinations, If he'd have just left, he'd be fine. He's undone by his own nonsense. At the beginning of Batman Returns, these guys are getting taken out by Batman. So the movie goes on, and you get the origin of the Penguin, and he's going to run for office, and Max Schreck is somehow saving electricity because he's a power vampire, and he's named after the guy who played Nosferatu. There's some Tim Burton weirdness to it. The production design's gorgeous. Vincent Schiavelli is the head of the Red Triangle Gang along with the Penguin. once again, Michelle Pfeiffer looks amazing as Catwoman. It's a fantastic costume. You get to see her make it, and that's such a cool superhero move because we've never seen, like, I'm going to sit down and make my costume. You know, I've become somebody else, so I need clothing to reflect that. And we get to see Selina Kyle do that, you know. It's really cool. It's a cool moment when she breaks the neon from hello there to hell here. It's fun. Really fun sequence. Not a kid's movie. Not a kid's movie at all. And I remember, you know, I'll jump to the end here. I remember walking out of Batman Returns with two distinct feelings. The first is, boy, did that Catwoman scene at the end look tacked on or what? Turns out it was. They've admitted later that it was shot like 2 weeks before the movie was supposed to come out. You know, where they pan up to the buildings and all of a sudden Catwoman's head rears up. It's like, we know you're never going to give us a Catwoman movie. And boy, don't we wish that were true. So don't put that in the movie. And the other thing you walked out of Batman Returns was, I don't know if I liked it. It's a big summer movie. It's Batman. It's the Penguin, Catwoman. They're fighting. There's a Duckmobile and a Bat ski boat and the Bat missile and all these. Everything's there to make it a Batman movie. But I was 20 when this movie came out. And I didn't care for it. And I think it's because I was not old enough. It's weird to think that I wasn't old enough to appreciate a Batman movie, but I wasn't. If you watch it now, yes, it looks dated. Some of the effects are awful. Some of the, you know, when they light the tree and Batman unfolds his cape into wings and he's flying over Gotham, those were some really early computer effects, and they don't hold up. They don't hold up on a big screen TV. But other than that, it's a really good movie. If you're on the fence about Batman Returns, you should revisit it right now. You know, go watch it with fresh adult eyes. It's a dark movie. This is a movie. Batman Returns is a movie about. It's about being rejected by your parents. You know, the Penguin is a very sad guy who has been rejected by his society parents. He's lived in the sewer his whole life when he should have been leading a life of luxury with a silver spoon in his mouth. And his way to get back is he's going to get all of the firstborn children of Gotham and drown them. The plot of the movie, the Penguin doesn't want world domination. He's not blotting out the sun. He's going to kill all of the children of the rich people. That's dark. That's heavy. That's a heavy, heavy plot for a movie. Oh, sure, it's all done up in candy and Tim Burton skeletons, but it is a dark movie. Look at Selina Kyle's story. Here's this nebbish secretary who is basically bullied and abused by her boss, and the way she gets back is by becoming a dominatrix. Whip and all, right? And look at Batman's story. He gets the short end of the stick, you know, because he doesn't have a story arc in this one other than he's Batman and he has to fight everybody, right? But the way they do it is him and Selina Kyle have this friendship, and Batman and Catwoman have this romance. And the basic idea is these are two damaged people who cannot be themselves. So in order to get sexual satisfaction, they have to dress up in black rubber, and they have to role play, and they have to beat each other up. I mean, this is heavy stuff for what is, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes again, a kid's movie. A movie that had a toy line where Catwoman in a little dominatrix outfit comes with a whip and her arm is spring-loaded to whip people. McDonald's had glasses. And boy, was there a backlash about that, because every kid wanted them. They had Happy Meal toys, little Catwoman in a cat car. So you can see why people were a little surprised by this movie. I walked out that day not really liking it. I love the imagery of it, but the story didn't do anything for me. It wasn't until later, rediscovering it on DVD again and like really focusing on what this movie's about, did it really appeal to me. It's a really cool movie, and it's one of those rarities because studios don't greenlight those kind of movies. They don't say, oh, you want to take our huge film franchise and take a risk with it? They don't do it very often. They don't do it hardly at all, if ever. And the biggest indication of how they don't take risks was what happened afterwards. Because after Tim Burton's Batman Returns came out and did less box office, but most sequels do. There are exceptions, but it did less box office than the original. Warner Brothers kind of had a fit and wanted to change up what they were going to do. So the third Batman movie, 1995's Batman Forever, 3 years later, the reins were given to Joel Schumacher. Mr. I never met a cod piece I didn't like, Joel Schumacher. And Batman Forever would put Batman on a whole different playing field, a whole different level, and a whole different toy aisle than anything that had come before it. All right, so where do you even begin with Batman Forever? It was obvious that the Warner Brothers executives, they had a big meeting, and they wanted to talk all about the upcoming new Batman project. Now, Tim Burton stayed on, I think, as producer, and a lot of the team stayed in place, but he wasn't keen on directing it. And Warner Brothers wasn't, they weren't upset about that, because they wanted Batman to take a new direction. And the new direction was kid-friendly, because they saw in the first Batman how much money could be made, not just off the film itself, but also all the products, all the toys, the licensing, Happy Meals, stickers, tennis shoes, T-shirts, backpacks, lunch bags, you name it. And the backlash that they had on Batman Returns prompted them to really put the brakes on it and say, we're going to have to sacrifice artistic merit for commercial profit. There's no doubt. There is no doubt. You can see it in the toys. Now, this is 1995, so by this time I am already married, and I have a good job, and I have disposable income. And a lot of the stuff that I bought in the 90s was action figures. I loved collecting action figures, and I would collect entire lines, usually based off of movies. 95 is golden era for toys, because Todd McFarlane's up the ante with the Spawn line, and Kenner was on fire because they were buying every license they could get and putting out full toy lines with 6, 7, 8 figures and 1 or 2 vehicles. And there was a lot going on in the action figure aisle. Not like it is today, where it's just a couple of companies making the same generic products that just happen to be the characters that you like. No, back then there was a lot of variety, and Hasbro had taken the license on a lot of big movies, or what they thought would be big movies. They had resurrected the Alien toy line. They had, in 95, they had Waterworld, which you don't know 2 years out that the movie's going to tank. You have no idea when you're making the toys, and by the time you figure out the movie's a bomb, it's too late to put the brakes on anyways. But they also continued their toy license for Batman, and you can tell that there were a lot of meetings, because in Batman Forever there are more vehicles, more costumes, and more things to make into plastic than ever before. And I even remember there was some silly controversy where Kenner wouldn't allow photographs of the toys before they went to market, which this is all pre-internet, so everything was done through magazines. And I can remember Action Figure Digest being just up in arms that they couldn't print photographs of the Batman Forever toys, and if they could, they had to color them themselves, and they had black and white shot. It was just so silly. It all seems so silly now. But I remember seeing the first toys, and it was a different aesthetic. So Batman Forever, on paper, they really tried to make it more available to families and such. Yeah, Akiva Goldsman. There he is, Akiva Goldsman, our favorite writer, who would write all of our favorite movies, such as Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Lost in Space, The Da Vinci Code. Akiva Goldsman is the ultimate example of failing up. Because you'd think after writing a turkey like Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, you'd never work again. Because some people come out and they write a movie and you never hear from them again. You know, the writing team that wrote or rewrote Jingle All the Way, they got their big break on Can't Hardly Wait, and then Josie and the Pussycats, and then I don't think you ever heard from them again. So, anywho, the studio has this big meeting, and they hire Joel Schumacher, who is... It can be argued that Tim Burton is more about style over substance, but he hasn't got anything on Joel Schumacher. Joel Schumacher is the king of overlighting, overacting, overproducing, and overreaching. Batman Forever is a mess. It's a beautiful mess. It's a hot mess, if you want to call it that. I'm looking at it. Here we are, almost 20 years later. So you're going to get my adult opinion versus my fanboy opinion when I saw it in the theater back then. But when it came out in the theater, this looked like the Batman movie we always wanted, you know. It wasn't dark and brooding. Instead, it was bright and colorful, and it had the Riddler and Two-Face and a lot going on. This movie is so complicated. I'm not saying complicated like, oh, I don't understand the plot. No, it's complicated in that there's so much on the screen that you just don't know where to look half the time. It opens with Two-Face stealing an entire bank vault via helicopter and racing it through the city with Batman inside, and it's spewing acid. So we've got a robbery, a hostage, deadly acid, a helicopter that flies at one point through Gotham's version of the Statue of Liberty, and it sets the stage for the movie. And the movie's going to be just as complicated and messy as the opening, with slick editing so that you're not really... You don't see what you think you see. You know, a lot of good editing hides places where you don't want to put actors in danger. But the editing in Batman Forever is just so that it's a barrage on the senses, you know. They always wanted to say that MTV somehow dumbed down movies by speeding up editing and training eyes to see quicker shots. And if that's the case, then Batman Forever might have been the first big studio picture to fully embrace that in a Michael Bay sort of way, before Michael Bay made a name for himself other than commercials. Made a name, and the editing in Batman Forever is just, it's a barrage. I mean, we'll get into Batman and Robin obviously at some point because we're racing towards it, but Batman Forever is an assault. It's an assault on the senses. It says that, hey, all that stuff you like, here's more of it. If you like hamburgers, here's 6 hamburger patties and 3 buns and 9 slices of cheese. And that's what it is. And you can totally understand where Michael Keaton saw where this was going. I think they offered him a pretty hefty payday to stay as Batman. And he had the good sense to say, look, I'm going to turn it down. It's not something I'm into, but you guys have a good time on making your Batman movie. So they went out and they got Val Kilmer. Now, Kilmer had been a pretty big star up to that point, and I think he might have been looking to boost his commercial success simply by being Batman. Now, this was the first indication in a big way that, this is something I've always believed, that Batman is the American version of James Bond, in that we love the character and the trappings of it, the Batcave, the Batmobile, the supervillain, the accessory belt. We're such a fan as a nation, as a culture, for all these things that it really doesn't matter who's playing it. You know, we love James Bond so much that you can change James Bond every 4 or 5 films and we're still okay with that. And the same holds true for Batman to some respect, in that we just love the character. We love to see him on screen. And hey, it's great if it's a good actor and somebody we like, but even if it isn't, it's still good, right? So they hired Val Kilmer, and Then they went about getting their villains, and they hired Jim Carrey, who at the time, arguably, the biggest movie star on the planet. He had done, in 1994, he had become the first actor to ever have 3 $100 million movies plus in the same year. Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. All in the same year. That's an astounding feat. 3 movies that big in a row. So getting him to play the Riddler, they must have just been high-fiving all day, because there was nobody bigger to play it. You know, if it hadn't been Jim Carrey, you could have easily seen Robin Williams in the part, or some other up-and-coming comedic actor. But at the time, getting Jim Carrey was such a big deal that they couldn't have been happier. And then Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, that's a really interesting choice. Now, the fanboys, we all screamed because it's supposed to be Billy D. Williams. In the first movie, he's Harvey Dent. He's District Attorney Harvey Dent. Wait a minute, who's this other guy? So it's Tommy Lee Jones, and he's in the worst super villain costume you've ever seen. It's way up there with the worst. It's this zebra striped half purple suit, and half his face is purple. Like whenever they stamped final approval on this design, they must have been on drugs. They must have been high. They must have just been thinking, you know what? It's color on the screen, and Joel loves color, so we're going to give him as much color as we can. And Tommy Lee Jones looks ridiculous. And you know that he knows he looks ridiculous, because in every scene, whenever he's not speaking, he looks upset. He's not an actor in the moment waiting to say his line. He's a guy like, what am I doing here? I think in interviews he said he had done it just to make his kids happy. Like, what's he doing in this movie? And he keeps talking in we, and he keeps laughing like the Joker. Like, it was just an attempt to turn both of these villains, the Riddler and Two-Face, who have different origins, different ideals, different ways of committing their crimes, make them all the Joker. They're all goofy and fun and yucking it up, right? And Two-Face just happens to have his coin, right? So the movie opens with this huge, elaborate trap to get Batman. I don't even know what the hell's going on. It's a big mess. Check out the villains' henchmen, who are carrying guns with neon in them. Yes, their Tommy guns have circular pieces of neon in them. I bet when the prop people, now it's no slam against the people who made all this stuff, because everything in the movie is well crafted. It all looks great. It's lit well. It's filmed well. It's just a bad movie. This is a case where all the right ingredients, because the director is deranged, adds up to a mediocre, bad, summer, blah movie. You know? And again, I will reiterate, when I saw this in the theater, I thought it was fantastic. I must have gone 3 or 4 times that summer. I can remember going down the toy aisle and finding the Riddler as the last figure on the peg at Target and just going berserk, because this was the toy everybody wanted, and I had it with his brain drain capture thing. There were plenty of Batmans on the shelf, but Two-Face and Riddler were hard to find, and I managed to find it. I think he goes now for about 38 cents on eBay, even carded. But Batman Forever, there's too many characters in it. They're all vying for screen time. They tried to give Batman a story arc in this one where he needed to pick who he was going to be. Was he Bruce Wayne or was he Batman? You guys can hear the cat? There's a cat outside howling. And how they do this, how it manifests itself in the movie is Gotham has a new psychiatrist doctor in town named Chase Meridian, played by Nicole Kidman. And she's going to be the love interest / head doctor for Bruce Wayne, and she's going to figure out what's wrong with him and what's wrong with Batman, because they're just copying the Catwoman mold of she tolerates Bruce Wayne, but she's in love with Batman. It doesn't make any sense. And there's a really terrible scene where she finally decides who she wants to be with, and it's Bruce Wayne. So she tells Batman the news, and when he leaves, he like stops right in front of camera and he smiles. It's very embarrassing. There's a lot of this movie that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that Alfred runs out to the Batmobile to offer Bruce Wayne, Batman, sir, I've made you a sandwich. And he goes, I'll get drive-through. And then he races off in the Batmobile. And I think that whole scene was used intact for a McDonald's commercial. Now the Batmobile shows up, and because Kenner, I'm sure, was involved way at the beginning, time for a new Batmobile. Because the last time we saw the Batmobile, it had been sabotaged by the Penguin and his Red Triangle gang, forcing Batman to jettison the side pieces, turning it into the Bat Missile, and racing off down an alley that the cops can't follow him down, right? But in Batman Returns, that sequence was supposed to be followed up by him taking the Batmobile to a young African-American actor played by, I believe, Marlon Wayans, or one of the Wayans, who would turn out to be not only the man who helped fix the Batmobile, but he would be Robin as well. There were a lot of rumors swirling around that Robin was going to make an appearance in Batman Returns. Even Michael J. Fox's name was thrown out there, and I remember seeing him on a talk show and him saying, that I don't know about that rumor, but that could make me a lot of money. But instead, we finally get the Robin storyline in Batman Forever, simply because Batman Returns, tonally it doesn't fit. Batman Forever, why not? Have everybody in it. Everything but the kitchen sink is in it. Look no further than that the guns have neon. That some prop guy sat down and was told by the creative team that we're going to have these guns and I need you to make them light up with neon. He was like, you got it. And the henchmen's ski masks have fake piercings on them. Like, it's such a product of mid-90s grunge, stupid outsider culture, sort of reworked into a candy-coated, audience-friendly way. You know, piercings and tattoos and outsider music. You know, they got sealed and to do Kiss from a Rose, and there's all this music in it, and the Offspring. It's really weird. They they obviously sat down and mapped out every aspect of how they could bring Batman back from the brink of parents being upset and right back to, we want to have a Batman birthday party. We want to take our kids to see Batman at whatever theme park he's at, and a kick-ass soundtrack is the capper to all that, you know, because it had U2 and Offspring and Seal and the Flaming Lips doing the Riddler's theme, and everybody bought that. Everybody bought that soundtrack, man. So in the movie, you get to see the Riddler's origin, and part of that is you get to see Bruce Wayne at work at Wayne Enterprises, and it's this big, vast think tank where they're coming up with new products, and Edward Nygma has come up with this blender that you put on your head, and it can suck your brain thoughts out or send brain thoughts in. It's really muddy. It's obviously supposed to be some sort of virtual reality helmet, because they put it on and people see like koi fish swimming around, and his boss is Ed Begley Jr. So he's got this thing that can project images right into the brain, and he shows it to Bruce, who says, it raises too many questions, Edward, because if you can project in, how could you not take out? And we're not going to fund that project. So Edward gets upset that night and kills Ed Begley Jr., and you're treated to, no offense, you know, this is why they hired Jim Carrey. They hired him to be Jim Carrey. So you get all the Jim Carrey isms, you know, where he's pretending he throws him off this balcony, and he's doing calls like he's in the oh, I'm going to give him a 9, but he better step it up because the Romanians are fabulous at it, and hits him with a coffee pot and says, caffeine will kill you. Like, it's just the beginning of catchphrasing the hell out of Batman, you know. In the first one, we got, you ever dance the devil in the pale moonlight? And when Batman says it, it's a big fun moment. And it doesn't feel forced. In Batman Forever, every one of these things feels forced, right? So I'm not sure how he does it, but Edward doctors the surveillance footage to make it look like Ed Begley Jr. killed himself. It's not really explained. It's just sort of, well, that's how he got out of it. Well, how did he do it? Well, we don't know. Okay, well, you know what? There's so much going on anyways. Let's just keep going, right? And the same thing goes with the Riddler's actual riddles. When they're presented on screen, this would have been a fun way to present the audience with a legitimate riddle that they would have fun solving along with Batman. And instead, I defy you to tell me how they make any sense. They go through the motions of it, and they're really elaborate sort of pop-up book things that the Riddler's leaving for Bruce Wayne. But they don't make any... when they finally do solve them and what they mean, you don't, as the audience, go, oh my gosh! Now, I'm not asking for really simple riddles like out of a kid's book, but it should be a logical sense. You know, there should be a trail that you follow along, and then you get to the end. And just like on the Adam West Show, they don't make a lick of sense. They're overly complicated. There's no way even any kind of rational, sensible person would arrive at the correct solution based on the information given. It's just not going to happen. And speaking of logical conclusion, we're also treated to the origin of Robin. So in this movie, you get the origin of the Riddler, you get a flashback origin of Two-Face, you get the origin of Robin, and you get the plot of the brainwave analyzer, not only giving Gotham the amazing 3D experiences that they've always wanted, but all their thoughts being sucked out. And that's a lot for a single movie. That's 3 movies, or it's a 4-hour movie. And they have to sell toys. So in the midst of all that, Batman has to change costumes a lot. He has to change vehicles. We have to see different locales. And the Robin origin, it's actually played out very well. They are the Flying Graysons. You get to see the costumes that are very reminiscent of Robin. So it's good and bad. There's a fun line of dialogue where Batman mentions Metropolis. So that was a fun indication that maybe we were going to get a Superman Batman movie sometime in the 90s. Yeah, right. We're getting it 2 years from now. You know, that's 21 years after Batman Forever. Thank you. But you get that Two-Face is the person who kills Robin's parents. So Batman takes him, and he's not a kid. You know, he's in his 20s. So he gets taken in by Bruce Wayne, and I know that this is the Batman story. This is what happened. You'd prefer if Dick Grayson was a little younger so that he could be brought up and trained slowly to be Robin, because I think in the course of the film he gets taken in by Bruce Wayne, and maybe 3 weeks later or less he's Robin. You know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not that this movie should. Don't have any illusions that you're going to have any kind of a coherent storyline or thought in this movie. Again, it's Joel Schumacher, so it's just as much color and lights and action on the screen as he can get, and forget about anything else. Look at the Batmobile. The Batmobile in the first 2 movies is a power machine. It's strong. It's sturdy. It looks like it could withstand an army attacking it. The one in Batman Forever is made to sell toys. And I always had suspicions that somewhere in the mix that H.R. Giger submitted a design, and that's what they did. Or they just stole it from him. But it turns out he actually did work 5 seconds on the Batman franchise, and the Batmobile in Batman Forever is an offshoot of one of his drawings, and it looks like it. It looks like an alien skull from Alien racing down the street. It's not practical. It's beautiful to look at. But look at it in the movie and think about like what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be the way Batman gets around and how he's able to fight crime with it. So it should be sturdy. It's not sturdy. All of its engine parts are exposed through the skeletal ribs on the side. And when it goes into an action scene, the big fins coming out the top actually wobble. And I know they have to wobble because that's physics. But it's not sturdy. It makes it look weak. It looks great on your floor because, you know, I bought one and put my little Batman figure in it. But on the big screen, it just looks silly. And when it's lit well and you're trying to have the audience swell with emotion as it's racing down the street, the wings wobbling don't they don't help it. They don't help it at all. So we get the Robin moving in with Batman, and you get in a movie again. You've heard me say this before. In a movie filled with terrible scenes, I'm going to now describe the worst scene, and it happens when Robin moves in with Batman, and that's when he does his laundry ninja style. There's a scene where he does his laundry, and he's like flipping it and wringing it out, and it's all done like he's some sort of kung fu laundry master, and you're just embarrassed for him. You know that Chris O'Donnell was excited to get this part. He's going to be in Batman. He's going to be Robin. There's going to be toys and Halloween costumes and posters, and he's going to have a rubber costume just like Batman. And there he is, like, he must have arrived that day on the set with his head down. I was like, today we're going to film the ninja laundry scene, and I'm going to call my agent and tell him to kill me. Yeah, so Robin's living with Batman, and they're the odd couple, and you could almost hear the theme song playing in the background. And he manages to outwit Alfred, who's supposed to be, in the context of Batman lore, Alfred's a smart guy. He's not a dummy. He's a really smart guy. And there's a scene where he sort of checks this, where are you, Master Robin? Oh, I'm up here. Oh, well, I'm going to go through the secret door because you couldn't possibly get here in time. And Robin, because we've seen him use his ninja skills to do laundry, and he's a trapeze artist, he does this flip, 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 slide right into the Batcave. How about some detective work? How about him figuring it out through mental deduction and not throwing himself literally through the front door of the Batcave? I don't know. Wouldn't that make for a more compelling and a better character arc? And what does he do once he's in? He steals the Batmobile and takes it drag racing, where he drag races against some guy dressed up as like a voodoo shaman. Like, I don't know what it is. And he rescues some girl who says he's Batman. I don't know. It's a very strange middle part of the movie. Like, they're just it's just screen filler until we get to the finale. That's really what it is. It's just we have to do these things. We have to have these little moments. And it's weird too, because I've already said that the movie is overstuffed with things. And then there's scenes like the drag race scene that's like, why is this even in here? So Batman can save him and mock him for not being trained as a fighter the way Batman is. Well, of course he's not. He's only been in your house like a couple of days. You know, that'd be like me going to live with Gordon Ramsay and him expecting me to be a chef on night 3. It's not going to happen. It takes training to do almost anything in life. Oh well. So we have the obligatory Gothamite ballroom scene. They're in almost every one of these movies where the people of Gotham, the rich people, have to get together and do something for charity or whatever. It just so happens in this one, they're there to unveil Edward Nygma's brain TV scanner, and he's gone out on his own, and he's making $1 billion, and he's going to be just as amazing and rich as Bruce Wayne. So they're having this big coming out party, and in it, Edward Nygma manages to copy Bruce Wayne's thoughts and find out that he's Batman. That's a pretty big deal, you know? Giving up his secret identity. So what have we done so far in these movies? Batman has his secret identity has been given up to Vicky Vale when Alfred lets her into the Batcave in the first film. In the second one, he rips his mask off to show Catwoman that he's Batman. And now in this one, his thoughts are stolen by the Riddler so that the Riddler now knows he's Batman. This is the worst kept secret identity in the history of secret identities. My favorite scene in this movie. My favorite scene in this movie because it's so dumb. And don't get me wrong, the ninja laundry scene's the worst. But this one, it's really short, right? So they're having this big party, and Bruce Wayne excuses himself to go change into becoming Batman, and he breaks through the glass on the top of the ballroom. This is a typical Batman entrance, which, check it out. If he's doing it through the top of the museum in part one, that's great because there's nobody there. It's after hours. The Joker has moved everybody out, so it's just him and Vicky and a couple of his henchmen. So when Batman bursts through the roof, he's not going to hurt anybody. This is a party in full swing with all of Gotham there, and he drops out of the ceiling, raining glass on everybody. But that's not my favorite part. My favorite part is the villains look up to see who's coming through the ceiling. Like, who else would it be in Gotham other than Batman? Who else would it be? If you look just to the left of the main characters, there's a nebbish-looking nerdy guy who's pointing at the ceiling screaming, it's Batman! Batman! That's my favorite moment. Whoever that guy is, he took his 2 seconds of the director telling him what to do and immortalized himself forever. I have shown this scene to my kids. I have shown it to strangers. I remember seeing it in a theater and just laughing my butt off because it's Batman. I love that guy. I love that guy. And it's followed up by the best line in the movie where Two-Face is already busted in, which is the reason Batman's here, because Two-Face has busted up the party. And the Riddler turns to me and goes, your entrance was good. His was better. The reason? Showmanship. It's a very well-delivered line by Jim Carrey. And it does suit the tone of the movie. It's very funny. And then a big fight breaks out, and everybody's punching each other, and Edward Nygma tries to punch somebody and hurts his hand. Like, it's more goofiness from the Jim Carrey school of goofiness. And it ends with Batman being tricked into falling through a tunnel and ending up underground where he's blasted at by fire, and he uses his special cape to protect himself from the fire, and then he's pulled out of it by the first appearance of modern day Robin, and they're going to be a team now, And he says, you have to give me a name. I'm going to be Robin or Batboy or Nightwing. That's another fun moment where they mention Nightwing, but it doesn't cost anything to mention these things. They're not building sets, so it's not like we're going to see any of this stuff in the movie. The movie finally gives you a conclusion where, and this is what the producers have wanted the whole time. They've wanted this giant, mega, unbelievable finale for this Batman movie. In Batman, it's just a fight on a clock tower. We've had the Bat plane, yes, but it's a fight on a clock tower. Batman returns, we get the Penguins marching through the streets, and then it really ends with more fist fights. Like, it's just a little fist fight. So when they sat down to do Batman Forever, and that digital effects had finally started to creep into every aspect of filmmaking, that they saw that this is their big chance. They're going to make this giant, over-the-top, crazy, mega finale to this movie. And the Riddler now has his own island, and it's got a giant blender on top of it that's sucking all of the thoughts from everybody in Gotham, including, for some reason, Drew Barrymore and Debbie Mazar as Sugar and Spice, Two-Face's cohorts. I don't even know what this is. Why are these women in this movie? They're only in the movie for about 3 seconds. What's going on? So Robin and Batman have to get out to the island and save Chase Meridian and all of Gotham from having their secret stolen by the Riddler. And they do that with Robin's got the Batboat. It's the first appearance of the Batboat, which is just like the Batmobile except on water. It has the ribbed side. And a new Bat plane, which is fine. You know, again, it's just more toys. And they made all of these toys. They made the Batmobile. They made the Batboat. They made the Batjet. All with action features and pop-off wings and whatever. Remote control vehicles, toys, playsets. Now you have to give special recognition to the Batman Forever Batcave playset. For the first 2 movies, they used the same sort of fold-out playset that had Wayne Manor on the front and the Batcave on the back, and a mini garage door to slide your Batmobile through, right? And it folded up into like a carry case. And it was very cute. It was also used as the same playset for the Batman the Animated Series. But when it came time to do Batman Forever again, you know that the toy people are involved because the Batman Forever Batcave is one of the coolest toys that came out in the 90s. It's massive. It's 3 or 4 plastic platforms that stack together, and then you unstack them and put them in order in their size to make the Batcave. It has a zip line. It has a special platform just for your Batmobile. It has the computer console. Now, I would have liked to have had this toy. I was old enough not to be buying $50, $60 play sets back then. But the kid in you always looks at it and goes, man, I would love to just set that up and put a Batmobile on it. And the main reason they make these things are birthday parties and Christmas, because there's got to be a big centerpiece toy. And what little kid doesn't want the most massive Batcave toy ever made? Even on eBay now, these things are still expensive. Even if they're inexpensive, the shipping costs will get you because it's really a massive toy. It is the best Batcave toy ever made. And if you're a Batman fan and you want to put a display up in your house, that's the one to get, unless you're going to make a custom one. But you could see like a big Batman fan taking it and putting the big penny and adding your own Tyrannosaurus Rex and making it look a lot like the cartoon one, because it's a cartoony one, but it's also very cool. So they have to take the Bat boat and the Bat plane out to Riddler Blender Island, and we have to wrap up these stories, of which there are a lot of them. Remember, we have Two-Face has killed Robin's parents. He's vowed revenge. The Riddler knows Batman's secret identity. That has to be dealt with. And Batman and Bruce Wayne have to figure out who he really is. Is he Bruce Wayne who puts on a Batman costume, or is he Batman who puts on a Bruce Wayne costume? Thank you, Kill Bill, for that analogy, although they used Superman. They get out to the island, and the first thing they say is, "Holy rusted metal, Batman." And it's an homage to the Adam West TV show. It's out of place. You don't need an homage to the Adam West TV series. The only homage that would have worked, and the one that we all prayed for, was that in the first Batman, we really hoped we were going to see Adam West as Bruce Wayne's father getting shot. That would have been fantastic. And I think there's even rumors that they asked him, and his answer was, "What do you mean? I'm Batman. I can't be Batman's father when I'm Batman." So that was never going to happen. But having Robin say "Holy rusted metal" and then pointing to "Holy rusted metal" is stupid, and it takes you out of the movie. And you shouldn't do that unless you're going to look at the camera and go, You shouldn't do it in the movie. You should never aggressively try to pull the audience out of the story. And the story is that Robin gets a chance to kill Two-Face for revenge, and he doesn't, because heroes don't kill. And Two-Face is ultimately undone by his own, his own machinations. He can't kill unless he flips the coin, and then for some reason Batman has got an entire belt pouch full of his coins that he throws up, and the Two-Face doesn't know which one is his, and he falls to his death, and you see a hand in the water. That's obviously not Tommy Lee Jones. The Riddler character, the storyline is wrapped up in conjunction with the Bruce Wayne identity crisis storyline. The Riddler manages to kill Robin at the last second. He puts him in a tube, and in the other section, there's a tube with Chase Meridian with a gold gag on. Like, it's really silly. And the Riddler now is changed into he was wearing, in the beginning, a green unitard covered in question marks, sometimes with a blazer, sometimes with not. Towards the end, he's wearing a light-up blazer with question marks that illuminate. And then at the end, for some reason, and the reason being Joel Schumacher, he's wearing a white woman's unitard covered in sparklies. His hair is done up like a woman, and he's wearing so much makeup, he looks like a drag queen. Thank you, Joel Schumacher. He's not menacing. It's just silly. And Batman has changed costumes yet again. He's got a new bat suit that allows him to see in the dark. And he uses a batarang to somehow save both Chase Meridian, thereby validating the Bruce Wayne side of his persona, and saving Robin, thereby validating the Batman side of his persona. And the Riddler somehow has his brain melted by his own brainwave analyzer. I know I'm getting that wrong, because the brainwave analyzer is what Doc Brown wears in Back to the Future when Marty knocks on the door. The brain drain helmet, I mean, I know that's the toy. In the movie, they keep calling it the box. Again, I haven't watched this movie in a while. I don't know if I could sit through Batman Forever unless it was to watch it with my kids and goof on it. But I don't know how he saves both of them. It's not physically possible. And the problem here is that when you set up an impossible problem for your hero, and most movies should, if they're worth their salt, the fun is seeing how he solves the problem. How does he save both of them in a logical sense that we, the audience, didn't give him credit for? And instead, he shuts out the lights and manages to save them both, and it's all very silly. And then he falls down a pit with Robin, and they have to save each other, thereby solidifying their dynamic duo fighting crime team. It's ridiculous. It's all silly. And then it ends with it ends with Batman smiling again, or so. I don't remember. It's just stupid. And it also ends with the Riddler being taken to Arkham. And this is the first time we've seen Arkham Asylum in the movies. So that's pretty cool. The guy from Deep Space Nine and Benson plays Dr. Burton in a nod to Tim Burton. And they're there, Chase Meridian and Dr. Burton are there to interview the Riddler because the Riddler knows who Batman is. And he just gives some goofy answer and starts flapping his straitjacket arms up and down like a bat. It's really stupid, but it's okay only because we finally get to see Arkham. And I think that Schumacher liked Arkham because it's another aesthetic he can put on the movie, because we've already had neon guns, neon graffiti, ice blue Batmobile engine parts and bat boats and girly costumes on villains and a silver Batman suit and rubber everywhere. It's all so ridiculous. And they even have the audacity to reference Batman Returns by when Batman rebuffs Chase Meridian's advances. She says, "What do I need? Skin-tight vinyl and a whip? Skin-tight vinyl and a whip? Oh, hardy har." You don't get to piggyback on that. Unless you directed it and can reference it, that's great. But not Schumacher referencing Burton. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're two different worlds. The Gotham City you see in Batman Forever in no way resembles anything we've ever seen before on screen. And normally that's a good thing, like, wow, it didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. But instead, it's like, it didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. Complicated, messy, full of statues and levels. And at one point, the Batmobile drives up the side of a building. Up the side of a building. Is that another homage to the Adam West Batman? Do we need Frank Sinatra leaning out the window going, "Hey, Batsy"? Is that what it is? Is that what Schumacher's going for? Because I don't know what he's going for. And it ends with the bat signal and Batman and Robin running to camera, and it ends. And you're there to leave the theater excited that Batman's back and fun and family friendly, and buy all the birthday party supplies that you need, the toys, the costumes, the comic books, the coloring books, the sticker books, you name it, the Applause high-end statues, the Applause keychains, and everything else that Suncoast Motion Picture Company has to offer at your local mall. And I know this because I bought a lot of it. Have you ever seen a Chris O'Donnell Robin coffee mug in the shape of his head? It might be the ugliest thing you've ever seen. And they had him in everybody's head. Look up Applause figural mug. And they're the cheapest looking crap you've ever seen. The ugliest sculpts. All that Applause junk is so bad. They made all of it. And it was all in service of this movie, which the executives didn't treat as a movie and instead treated it as a way to highlight in beautiful lighting all of the products they would be selling you. Yeah, Batman Forever. Now, what do I know? Because Batman Forever was a huge grossing movie. It brought the gross back up in line with Part 1. So the studio was ecstatic at what Schumacher had done. And so ecstatic at what Schumacher had done that they instantly hired him to direct the next Batman movie. And we don't have time to go in it now, but if you've heard how irritated I've been over what they did in Batman Forever, you ain't seen nothing yet till we get to what is considered the worst comic book, or almost the worst studio film of all time, Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin, man. That's what we're going to do next on 91 Reasons. Hope you've enjoyed this trip down Bat Memory Lane. We're nearing the hour-and-a-half mark, or we're over it. It's hard to tell. But thanks for listening. I am Jeff Tucker. I am the voice that you hear. The best way to support 91 Reasons is to subscribe on iTunes and tell your friends about this amazing show where this geeky guy talks about a movie that came out nearly 20 years ago. It's fun for the entire family. Subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a review. We've got some really nice reviews. I'd like to thank Rick West for leaving a really nice review about he binge listened one Saturday, and it was really funny because he was texting me the whole time, binge listening and marveling at all the stories I was telling. And then he got to the Drunks episode and he simply couldn't believe what he was hearing. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, that episode did polarize a lot of people. So hey, we're back talking about all the twisted landscapes of pop culture as we dig through the worlds of Batman. And as you can tell, I love Batman. I always have. Starting lightly with Adam West and really cementing itself with Michael Keaton's portrayal. Now, in our next future episodes, we'll talk about Batman and Robin. We'll talk about Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy and what the future holds for Batman and my opinions, because I know that's what you've really come to hear. I am the author of 3 books. You can get them on Amazon.com in either paperback or 99-cent Kindle downloads. The first book is The Sixth Key. The second book, The Lost Station, and my newest book, The Infinite Backward, all available right now. Next year, The Ice Temple, my new book, will be out, hopefully in all of the free time that I have to write. This is 91 Reasons. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening? You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
It is reasonably confident to know or to think that in the summer of 1995 as Batman Forever was cleaning up at the box office and proving that Joel Schumacher's vision of the Caped Crusader was what people were looking for. You know, it was the family-friendly Batman. And I had talked in the previous episode about the meeting they must have had getting Joel Schumacher in there and the new direction it was going to take. So the new meeting must have been even bigger and grander, with bigger snacks and more martinis as they sat around the Warner Brothers boardroom, just ecstatic about the box office grosses and how they were going up every day for Batman Forever. And more importantly, how the toys were flying off the shelves and how the Riddler and Two-Face figures were impossible to find, and people were buying every variation of Batman and Robin, from Street Robin with motorcycle to every variation of any kind of color-coordinated Batman you can possibly think of, and even some that were simply the same Batman released over and over again with new accessories and new missiles that shot across the room and grappling hooks and lots of grappling hooks, and the Batmobile and the Batcave and the play sets and the Happy Meals. And finally McDonald's was excited because they had glasses they could sell so that the kids would just go insane. Now, they didn't do toys for Batman Forever. They didn't do Happy Meals, but they did do the glasses, the mugs, which everybody bought. I bought 2 or 3 sets. What do you do with them? If you've seen these things, what are you supposed to drink out of them? Little kids don't drink coffee, so what do they drink out of these Batman Forever mugs? I don't know, hot cocoa maybe, but how many times are you going to use that? And do you really need 4, right? So they must have had this giant meeting at Warner Brothers, and they bring Joel in, and they're just clapping him on the back. Oh, Joel, the box office grosses are astounding for Batman Forever. We couldn't be happier. You know, they're smoking stogies made of $100 bills as they're going over the numbers and the figures. And, oh, Val Kilmer is not interested in doing another Batman because, you know, Joel, we're going to start this new Batman immediately. We haven't even finished the press junket for Batman Forever, but we're already going to start on a brand new Batman adventure, Batman Triumphant, they were going to call it, right? Batman Triumphant. And it was going to be just as big and just as crazy, or bigger and crazier than Batman Forever. And as they're sharing caviar and talking about all the amazing things they're going to do, I don't think they ever stopped to think that they were spiraling down. They were spiraling down into parody, self-parody, caricature. And out of this meeting, of which, you know, Joel Schumacher was there, and McGregor, the director, was there, and not director, the producer was there, and all the Warner Brothers executives and the head of production, everybody was there. And then the door opens, and there's a new guy who walks in. He's got a briefcase. He looks real important, and he strides down the boardroom, and he takes a prominent seat, and everybody looks, and they're like, we don't remember seeing this guy on the lot before. Is he with finance? Is he with the overseas distributors? Who is this guy? Oh, this guy is the most important guy at the table. This is the guy from Kenner. This is the guy from the toy company. And he's got a lot of ideas. And you're going to need to speak with him if you're going right into production, because it's going to take 2 years for the molds for these toys to have to be created in Asia out of forged steel so that we can churn out Batmobile after Batmobile and Robin and Batman and Robin one after the other. So we got to talk to this guy, and he opens his briefcase. He's like, hello, everybody. I'm the head of creative production for Kenner, and we have a lot of ideas, and we're here to make the movie more toyetic. Toyetic? And the word echoes down the boardroom, and everybody goes, oh, toyetic. Oh, it's a new word. What does it mean? Well, I know it's toy, and etic means of, so the movie's going to be more toys. We're actually going to flip the script here, and instead of making a movie where the stuff in it is so cool that kids are going to inevitably want to buy the toys, instead, we're going to make the movie about the toys. And we're not going to make a move till we speak with the Kenner guy to make sure that what we're doing in the movie is going to make a good toy. Everybody's, they're so excited, and nobody's more excited than Akiva Goldsman, the screenwriter, because Joel Schumacher probably had some hesitancy. You know, this is a guy who's made legitimate movies. He's not just a hack, or he's spiraling to that point, because, I mean, he had just shot A Time to Kill, which is not a genre picture at all. It's a movie about racial relations in the South. And he'd done St. Elmo's Fire and Flatliners. So he'd done movies that at least pretended to have some substance. And Batman Forever was just a cartoon. And here they were having a meeting where they're going to make it even more cartoony. And they're going to have the toy guy involved so that nobody makes a move until the toy guy signs off on it, because nothing is made in this movie unless it can be a toy. So Schumacher might have had some hesitancy. Now, as the director, he's got to take full responsibility. The buck stops with him, because he's the go-to between the producers, the executive producers, and the studio. So he signs off on it. The other guy's ecstatic, because Akiva Goldsman, he must be beside himself, because half the work's being done by the toy guys in the writing. Because instead of stringing together one good scene after another, he's going to string one good play set after another. One good play set after another. In an action movie, in a big genre picture, the big special effects sequences are called set pieces. And if you're listening to this podcast, you already know that. But they were going to flip it. They weren't set pieces anymore. They were play sets. Everything's a play set. So Akiva Goldsman, the hack who wrote Batman Forever and a lot of other crap, Lost in Space, he must have been just, scribbling notes furiously. We'll have a meeting afterwards. We'll have a sidebar meeting, just me and the Kenner guy, and we'll talk about all the toys he wants to put in the movie so that I can write scenes around them. So instead of just Robin getting on his motorcycle, it's going to be a showpiece of this big coffin-like apparatus rising up out of the ground. And as it opens up and it's flourished with red neon and Robin's motorcycle comes out of it, every kid who's watching it will go, I got to have that toy. Well, you're in luck, because the toy is available right now at your local toy store, your Target, your Walmart. Heck, it's available 6 weeks before the movie comes out, so you can already have it to go vroom vroom when the movie starts. Now, you know I'm just speculating, because I don't know what happened over at Warner Brothers, just what I know from the documentaries that I've watched. So I don't know if that meeting actually happened. But you know it did. You know it did, because if it didn't, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about what is widely considered one of the biggest cinematic turkeys of all time, Batman and Robin. This is a movie on scale with some of the biggest bombs of all time. Howard the Duck, Heaven's Gate, which you really can't compare Heaven's Gate, obviously, to Batman and Robin, right? That's not fair to Cimino. He actually was trying to do something. You know, he just overthought what the audience was going to sit through, right? There's a difference between a slow build on a 3-hour, 4-hour movie versus the assault on the senses that Batman and Robin is. But it's a turkey. It's a big, giant, mega turkey. But it didn't have to be that way. And it didn't have to be that way if the studio had just let somebody make a movie. All right, welcome to 91 Reasons. This is the latest episode. I am the voice, Jeff Tucker. We are continuing our Batman series. And we're continuing it with, like, as you've been listening for the last nearly 10 minutes, Batman and Robin, the 1997 sequel to Batman Forever. I was a big Batman fan, still am, always have been. You can listen to the first episode to see where the roots of that came from. And what I like to do on this show is not just review the movie, because this movie's been reviewed to death. Nothing I say is going to be any different than what people have been saying for the last 17 years about this crap fest. So I'm not going to be covering any new ground. And it's ridiculous to get upset about a movie 17 years ago that everybody panned upon its release. It's not like I'm finding a new way to talk about Batman and Robin. But this is what we do on the show. So I'm going to tell you the emotions of going into a movie like that, what it meant at the time, and if you know me and you know the show, the toys that I collected. Because even on a turkey, like I collected all the Waterworld toys. Let that sink in. I collected all the Waterworld toys from 1995. All the Kevin Costner figures, all of the smokers, and the good guys, and the Dennis Hopper bad guy. And I remember getting really excited finding the rare Trimaran, which was the Waterworld vehicle that you assembled with all the little netting and you can put them on. And I used to put up full displays of all these toy lines because I was a big toy collector, still am. I'm much more refined in what I collect because I don't have room for all that stuff. But before I had kids, I collected all this stuff. So even a turkey like Batman and Robin, I had to buy some of the toys. And doesn't that say that the marketing worked? And Warner Brothers had already done this before. You know, they had a big summer nonsense with Space Jam. And I remember the Warner Brothers the executives being interviewed and saying, well, Space Jam's not a movie so much as it's an event. It's a merchandising event. So what that means is let's sell all the crap, all the Michael Jordan and all the basketball and the Looney Tunes and all that crap. And then somewhere in there, there's a movie. But it shouldn't be like that. No matter what you're making, if you're meeting with the toy designers before you've even put pen to paper for page 1, you have screwed up. Because a movie should be so good that you're exhilarated, that you're brought into that world, and you like it so much that when it's over, you want to take a piece of it home. You know? I loved Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'd love to buy some of those toys. Again, I don't have a lot of room. But, you know, the Milano ship with the little tiny people that go in, you can get all the little Guardian figures to put inside. That's appealing, and that's ingrained in me from Star Wars way back in 1978 when the toys finally hit the shelves. But you should be writing a fantastic movie that urges the fan base to do that, not reverse engineering it. You can't put a bunch of crazy stuff on the screen and then have the toys and not have any substance to it. That's the epitome of hollowness. You know, that's a giant chocolate bunny that's hollow. There's nothing to it. So, here's what happened. Christmas 1996, the day after Christmas, my mom died. Yeah, it was pretty sad. And a month later, my son was born, my first son, Luke Skywalker. Yeah, that's right, Luke Skywalker. And I can remember going to work one day, and it must have been around March or April, and I think it was Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair did a big expose on the upcoming Batman movie. And this was exciting because I was a big Batman fan, and they really hyped this movie. It was a really early hype, and I can remember they had full-page portraits of Batman, Robin, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze, and Batgirl. And I remember cutting them out of the magazine and hanging them up at work, like, look at this thing, because the big deal about the pre-release marketing hype of Batman and Robin was that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play a villain. And he hadn't played a villain since the first Terminator, 1984. 13 years, all he played was good guys. Remember when you saw Terminator 2 the first time? Because I saw it, that sneak preview midnight showing, and you didn't know if he was the good guy or the bad guy. You knew that there was this globby liquid metal guy. But is he the bad guy? Is he the good guy? Is Arnold what? I don't know. And then when that scene where he finally pulls the gun out of the roses and you're like, he's going to shoot John Connor, and then he shoots the other guy, he's the good guy. What a reveal. So it was a big deal back then in 97 to find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play a bad guy. Because we were looking forward to it. We wanted to see Arnie. We had seen him play every variation of hero you can imagine. From the underdog in Running Man to the confused guy in Total Recall, Raw Deal, Red Heat, Twins, Kindergarten Cop, you name it. Every kind of character we had seen except a really good villain, not since the Terminator. So there was a picture of him with the blue makeup on and the contact lens, and I just thought, it's Arnold. Arnold never steers us wrong. I was the one guy who went and saw Last Action Hero and loved it. We can have a whole show about that, can't we? But Arnold was back as a bad guy, and they had a new Batman. It was George Clooney. I wasn't a Clooney fan. I am now. But back then, he was just another pretty boy on TV who was crossing over into movies, and I wasn't impressed. I can say, looking back, and having seen Clooney in action, not only in really high-quality movies, but also his humanitarian efforts and the stuff that he does for the fans, he's an impressive guy. He's actual living Bruce Wayne, you know, with all that he does and all the women that he's with, right? If we found out at some point that George Clooney was dressing up as Batman at night, no one would blink an eye and would go, well, that's just George Clooney. Of course he's Batman. He really is Batman. Have we seen George Clooney's parents? I don't know. Something to look into for the next episode, right? But we had Chris O'Donnell back as Robin, and, you know, I've never really been a Chris O'Donnell fan. I get that he's popular on TV now, but it took a long time for him to get there. He never really made a movie that I connected with. You know, I didn't really care for Scent of a Woman. Wasn't he in Men Don't Leave? And wasn't that a Hollywood Saloon like you must see Men Don't Leave? I've never seen it. It's one of those weird movies that the next time I see it, I'm going to pick it up simply because the Hollywood Saloon told me I have to watch this movie. I worked at the video store when it came out, and I was like, the title's dumb, the cover art is boring, the cast is uninspiring. So I've never seen that movie. I think Chris O'Donnell's, if he's not, you know, IMDb, but like I said, when I do this show, I don't take any notes. I'm not on IMDb while I'm on the show here. So you're getting 80-20. So maybe that's part of the 20 that I'm wrong, right? But the other addition was Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. And this was bewildering. This was head-scratching because in 1997, there were a lot of really popular actresses. Really popular good actresses, and no offense if you're a fan of this woman, but Alicia Silverstone was never on that list. I never got the point of Clueless. I didn't get it. I can't think of a single Alicia Silverstone movie that I could watch and actually, you know, be entertained. There's a whole host. I could do a whole episode of mega popular actors and actresses that have huge careers that I scratch my head. I don't get it. And she's way up there because she talks crooked. Her eyes are kind of vacant in a lot of scenes, and I don't get it. I never got it. It's just a weird thing. So they had this big mega cast announced way in advance of Batman and Robin, and the toys started showing up on toy shelves. Now, if you know me, if you know this show, the toys are a big part of the movie experience for me. I just did a whole tirade, right? So I can remember seeing the Batman and Robin toys when they hit the shelves way in advance of the movie, and I wasn't impressed. You know, they're really cheap looking. For the standard of the day that was the toys that were coming out in 1997, these were pretty. They look like knockoffs. The packaging is bland and uninspired. The logo is atrocious with the bat symbol, and it's covered up by Robin's symbol. And the toys themselves are really cheaply made. They don't have a lot of moving parts. They don't look anything like the actors they're supposed to be. They look almost as if these toys were put into production way in advance of even casting the movie. Which, other than in toy form, other than Chris O'Donnell, Chris O'Donnell's the only carryover from Batman Forever in toy form, because you know they never made Alfred. They're not going to make Commissioner Gordon. You know, Pat Hingle. It gave us a signal. Oh, it's Poison Ivy. I mean, he's awful. No one wants that toy. You know, even if he's the short packed one per case rare figure, nobody wants it. So the toys were bland. The Poison Ivy figure doesn't look. It just is a woman with red hair, and the Batgirl figure, because these were made so far in advance, the Batgirl figure doesn't even look like Alicia Silverstone's costume. They switched it, and the toys were like, well, Kenner was like, well, we've already made these. These have to come out. We have no other option. So, if you're expecting this almost Adam West version of Batgirl, Yvonne Craig, you're not getting it in the movie. The toy looks okay. I mean, it's generic, but the one in the movie is the big blonde hair with the little eye mask. And I remember looking at the toys, and especially, as a Batman fan, when there's a big movie coming out and the toys are coming, the big thing is the Batmobile. Because what are you going to do different to a Batman figure? They all look the same. It's all Batman, right? Like I said, it's all Batman with bigger, stranger-looking guns and whatever. And the Mr. Freeze figure was, I can remember it. There were two or three, and the first one that hit the shelves was uber thin. Like it looked like Patrick Stewart was playing Mr. Freeze. Definitely not Arnold Schwarzenegger. It took quite a while. It took after the film was released for an Arnold Schwarzenegger, even remotely looking figure to come out. And they never updated Poison Ivy. They never updated Batgirl. And again, Batman and Robin are pretty just generic. It's just whatever a giant accessory they can stick in the blister card with him, right? But the Batmobile, there's the carded figures are on the pegs, and the accoutrements. There's always a utility belt toy, and I think they had some miniature micros because, gosh, do you remember that fad in the 90s when all the toys were like micro because of Mighty Max? They made everything in micro. Star Wars Micro Machines came out, and there was Mighty Max and Polly Pocket, and then Kenner had the Microverse with all the Batman stuff, and then one shelf down, there's the Batmobile. And I remember picking it up and going, what the hell is this? Maybe this is, maybe it didn't translate well into toys? Maybe the one in the movie is so complicated that Kenner just couldn't figure out how to make it into a toy because it's way too long for a car. It's got a visible engine in the front, and not only is Batman visible, there's no roof, but it only seats one. It only seats one. Wait a minute. In Batman Returns, Batman Forever, the car seats two. In the first one, Vicky Vale rides alongside with him, right? Well, you finally have a movie called Batman and Robin, and you make a one-seater? I thought this was a joke. I thought this can't be, and I didn't buy it because it's really ugly. I've seen the toy version, I saw the movie, and I've seen the George Clooney Batmobile in person, and it's not an attractive car. The Burton one's the best because it just looks like it has power, and the Kilmer one is silly looking, but at least parked, it's striking. When it's driving and that big fin is wobbling, like I said in the last show, it's goofy. And when it drives up a building, it's even goofier. But the Clooney one, boy, this poor guy. I mean, not to say poor Clooney, because give me a break. The guy was paid uber amounts of money to be in this crap fest. He probably still gets residual checks from it, and it's never bothered him a day to make this movie. So, poor Clooney, whatever. And it's probably not even him in the car other than the first scene. He gets this ugly, ugly Batmobile. And you see I'm losing my train of thought because I'm so irritated at this movie. How does he drive around Gotham incognito in a giant car convertible, not even convertible, open air car with a Day-Glo rainbow engine that shoots light out? See, this is the problem when you have the toy people dictating what the movie's going to be about. Because what looks good in a toy never looks good in real life. And it's never practical. Mattel had the toy license for Man of Steel, and they made a utility belt for Superman. A what? A utility belt for Superman with like Superman throwing stars and a flashlight or something, I don't know, and a Superman samurai sword. It's as if they're not even paying attention. The reason movie merchandising even exists today is because of Star Wars. Nobody did that kind of merchandising before Star Wars. They did little tiny stuff. They like I've said before, Dr. Dolittle had a lot of merchandise that rotted on shelves for years. But Star Wars was the first one that said, hey, people want this stuff. But we only wanted it because it was a recreation of what we'd seen on screen. And I don't think Superman either had a utility belt or a samurai sword in Man of Steel. And if he did, he was too busy killing innocent Metropolis citizens to use it. Or maybe he used it on him and he was so fast I didn't see it. But the Batmobile and Batman and Robin is ugly. Now, this whole diatribe on Batman and Robin is almost like it's fish in a barrel. It's too easy. I'm being a bully. So let's just get that out of the way. At the 20-something minute mark, almost 30 minutes, I'm being a bully. Everything's been said about this movie, but I'm going to plow through because I saw this movie in an effort to lighten my mood after my mother died and to escape back into being a child because I was suddenly a father. And all I had that summer was Batman and Robin and Men in Black, which I'm not really a fan of, and Jurassic Park: The Lost World, which is really bad. If I ever get to doing Jurassic Park, a series on, or even just an episode on Jurassic Park, spoiler alert, I thought the first one was a masterpiece. What the hell happened in the second one? So, when I talk about Batman and Robin, it's simply because, as a fan of Batman, as a fan of superhero movies, this film effectively killed them all. It killed superhero movies in general, and Batman in particular, because 97, it would be 8 years, 2005, before we would get another Batman movie out of Warner Brothers. Can you imagine having a franchise that valuable and sitting on it for 8 years because the stink of the prior film is so bad? If you release something any sooner, doesn't matter how good it is, nobody's going to go see it. That's how bad Batman and Robin is. This is a terrible, terrible movie from scene one. And the reason it's bad is not only the toy element, which is number one, but it's also because Akiva Goldsman has no clue what to do with all of these characters. And because he's such a fanatic about sticking to the formula and not taking any risks, we get conflict when there shouldn't be any. And we get chaotic storytelling when it should just tell us the story. Just tell us what's going on. Batman and Robin opens with Batman and Robin fighting. They're fighting over the Batmobile, which wouldn't be an issue if they just built it with 2 seats. Do you think Batman would put up with any sentence out of Robin's mouth about the Batmobile that could be silenced with, you know what, Dick, you're right. We should have a car with 2 seats. We should ride together. We're going to be partners on this. We should ride together. And instead, this is why Superman works alone, is what George Clooney says. And look at that scene. He's so uncomfortable in the Batsuit. And it's not his fault. That Batsuit looks like he is an action figure. He can barely move. It's so glossy and so overdone and so oversculpted that it looks like the guy can barely move. And same with Robin. Robin's outfit looks like it was designed by Nike. And he can barely move in it. And they're expected to get in the car and drive off and get the motorcycle. And they're summoned to the Gotham Museum where Mr. Freeze is stealing a big diamond. And when I saw this in the theater, I think I've said this before, but it bears saying again. When the lights dim on a movie, I am an eternal optimist. I cannot wait for the movie to begin. When I was a kid, I would squint so that it looked like the lights were going out and the movie was going to start just now. I need to start right now. I don't want to wait. I don't want any commercials. I like the trailers. I've always been a fan of the trailers. It's different now that you can see trailers online, but as a movie-going kid, the trailers were only available to theater, so they were a big deal. But I just love going to the movies. I love escaping into other worlds. And Batman and Gotham is a world worth escaping into. But not this one. Not this one at all. And the first sign of trouble in this movie, like it opens with Batman and Robin fighting, but there's nothing that hints at we're just at the tip of the iceberg of badness here. Because when they get to the museum, not only does it look like a complete ridiculous movie set, but Batman drops in out of the sky and says, "Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman." Like, he's introducing himself. This guy's robbing antiquities. You don't introduce yourself. Well, you do, because as you're probably going to hear me say many, many times in this episode, this is a kid's movie. They made this movie for kids. But I hate when they put that moniker on it as if kids don't deserve good movies. Kids don't deserve good storytelling, characters with arcs. The best kids' movies have compelling stories, great characters, a little danger. Willy Wonka has all of that, and it's fantastic, and it stood the test of time. There are no kids who come home and go, "Man, we got to watch Batman and Robin again." And how sad is that? It's become blasé in the 17 years since its release to just bash on this movie. But think about it for a minute. They made a big mega budget, $100 million plus Batman and Robin movie. And it's not even worth watching twice. Unless it's a goof. Unless you've got riff tracks on or you're having a drinking game. And that's what should make you angry about this movie. Not that it's bankrupt of anything worth watching, but that they screwed up so royally on Batman and Robin. This should have been a fantastic movie. All the elements were in place to make a good movie, and they just decided to ignore it in favor of characters introducing themselves. "I'm Batman," and then he slides down a dinosaur, and you can almost hear the Flintstone theme playing as he flies off the tail. Like, who thought this was a good idea? I've been involved in semi-big productions with fight sequences, and if somebody had suggested something like that and we had the money to do it, I would have said, "Well, that's a terrible idea. That's stupid. Why are we going to waste a minute of our time on that?" And then we're treated to the first of many, many ice puns said by Mr. Freeze, because for whatever reason, Akiva Goldsman decided to turn Mr. Freeze into the ultimate parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And every action has to be punctuated by some witty quip, and the reason those witty quips work in those Schwarzenegger movies is that, for the most part, they don't seem forced. They seem as if they're an organic part of the movie. When he says, "I'll be back" in The Terminator, it's great because he's not kidding around. He is coming back. "I'm the party crasher. I'm the party pooper." There's so many good Arnold lines. Not so many in Last Action Hero. Some of those they're so embarrassing. There's a line in Last Action Hero where he throws a guy into an ice cream truck, and he turns and he says, "Iced that guy to cone a phrase." But that's supposed to be parody. So at least you can shrug and go, "It's parody. It's parody. It's not real." They're making fun of those things in movies. When he hits a guy in the crotch and he goes, "Are you a farmer? Here's a couple acres." That's supposed to be parody. In Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze goes so far beyond parody, so far into the realm of self-caricature. Like, it's almost as if he's just winking at the crowd, like, this would look good on a T-shirt, won't it? This would look good on a T-shirt, won't it? You know? And Robin busts in on his motorcycle, and he creates a Robin symbol in the wall that crashes behind. You know, like when Roger Rabbit jumps out the window and the blinds and the glass make the shape of him, and that's funny because he's a cartoon character. It's not the same kind of funny when it's a guy on a motorcycle who crashes through. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just spectacle for spectacle's sake, and stupid spectacle. Because I don't think any kid in the audience went, oh, wow, he broke it's the Robin symbol behind it. Nobody did that. Everybody said, how the hell did he do that with a motorcycle coming through the middle? What are those walls made of? It's a stencil? It's a big stencil, right? But, you know, Schumacher's like, cut, we've got it, it's perfect. Let's move on. And then, you know, the minute the movie goes, we're like 6 or 7, 8 minutes into the movie, and it goes completely over the precipice with Arnold's line of "Kill the heroes, kill the heroes, kill the heroes." Who? Akiva Goldsman. You're never going to listen to this. You're too busy swimming in your Scrooge McDuck vault full of money gotten from writing all of this crud. But I have to ask, on the slim chance that somebody who knows somebody who saw Akiva pass out at 31 Flavors, since it's pretty serious, no problem whatsoever, that maybe somebody could ask him, were you for real? Was this a first draft written on like the back of a paper sack? Who writes this? Who writes this? If I wrote this, nobody would read it. If I had written Batman and Robin, you know what? Somebody should do a scientific experiment on screenwriters and budding young filmmakers, people who may not have seen this movie, and write it out. Get the script and hand it to them and go, hey, we're thinking of rebooting Batman with this. What do you think? They would look at you like you're insane. They would look at you and say, you can't make this movie. It's embarrassing on paper. You should know what you should do? You should drive to the city limits. Go one city out into the desert. Go 30 or 40 more feet. Start a bonfire, a good raging bonfire. And at the height of its power and heat, throw this script in and then run so that the ashes don't get on you. That's what they would say. And instead, it became a shooting script where Batman and Robin fall to the ground because the museum has been frozen over in ice. And when they click their heels, ice blades pop out. And they're able to skate around the museum and play hockey with a giant diamond. It's hard to believe this movie exists. It's hard to believe I'm even talking about this in a form that says you can go watch it, and not just, well, this is like Superman Reborn. It was never made. No, this was made. This movie was released with a toy line and toys everywhere and costumes and you name it. And the Warner Brothers store had high-end collectibles for it. And I know because I was there a year later and picked up the Uma Thurman Poison Ivy maquette for like $6, marked down from $150. What the hell was I going to do with it? I don't know. But $6, even a crappy movie, it's still a statue of Uma Thurman, I guess. I don't know. Now, I've watched all the documentaries on this movie, so I know that Joel Schumacher apologized. The reason I bought that box set, I bought a box set of movies I mostly owned. I would never own Batman or Robin otherwise. But the documentary is amazing because Schumacher looks at the camera and says, I'm sorry. You know who doesn't say I'm sorry? Akiva Goldsman doesn't say he's sorry. Instead, you have to watch this to believe it. You have to watch this documentary to believe it. Akiva Goldsman looks in the camera Now, this was released in 2005. This box set was released, I think, to capitalize on the release of Batman Begins. So either he had seen this or a trailer, or the movie was far enough along that he knew the gist of it and what they were doing, rebooting the Batman story. And he all but takes credit for what Christopher Nolan did with Batman Begins by saying that if it wasn't for Batman and Robin being so bad and the movie being so awful that it killed the franchise, you would never have somebody come along and make Batman Begins. He actually says that in the documentary. Are you kidding, Mr. Goldsman? Are you joking? You're saying that it's a good thing that Batman and Robin was so bad so that somebody could watch it and be inspired to do better? So is that like saying that the next big ship that was inspired after Titanic sank, it's good that Titanic sank and all those people died because we got this much nicer ship out of it? And did I really just compare the release of Batman and Robin to the disaster of the Titanic? I think I did. I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody who was offended by that. That's what he says. And maybe he's right. But what does that say about all the people who labored on this movie? The credits for this film go on 3 days because there's so much going on in this movie that the actors themselves were not even clear on what they were doing. Chris O'Donnell says in the documentary that he never even worked a day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can you believe that? He never worked a day. He was on set and saw Arnold working and hung out with him and chatted, but Robin and Mr. Freeze never worked together on the film. If you watch the movie knowing that, it's painfully obvious, because in the museum scene at the beginning, other than a few punches with Batman and the gun getting thrown around, Mr. Freeze is just basically shot by himself. Like Arnold showed up one day, finished all his shots, and then they went and filmed the rest of the museum sequence without him, because the thing you need to know about Batman and Robin and why it's such a mess is that if you don't see George Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Chris O'Donnell's face, it's not them doing the scene. It's second unit, third unit. They had so many Batmans and Robins working around the clock to finish this movie on time that you're not really looking at a performance by an actor. You're looking at a thing created by a team, and sometimes that works because everybody working together to create Gollum in Lord of the Rings, the end justified the means. And Gollum lives and breathes. But in Batman and Robin, 10 people portraying Batman, all it does is you start to squint and see his face and go, well, that's not Clooney. And in some of the scenes of Mr. Freeze, it's painfully obvious it's not him. The driving scenes in particular. At the end of Back to the Future, that guy in a George Washington wig that drives the DeLorean up Marty's driveway, the Mr. Freeze scenes are that bad. Like, it's so not him. They did all this work to make this guy up to look like Arnold, but the reason Arnold Schwarzenegger is so famous and so revered is that he has a look that can't be duplicated. If you could duplicate the look of Arnold Schwarzenegger, there would have been 10 or 15 of them running around. The only way that they even managed to come up with new action heroes back in the day was a gimmick, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, but none of them looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he has a look all his own. So when a goofy guy with blue makeup drives by and whatever the hell that is Mr. Freeze drives, it's not him. And for that matter, all the scenes of Batman and Robin running and jumping and fighting and grappling on everything, it's not the actors. Stunt double. The big iconic scene at the end of the movie with Batman and Robin and Batgirl running in silhouette in front of the bat signal, it's not them. And it's not them because you can't see their face. And it's not like Spider-Man where, we know that's Tobey Maguire even though his face is covered. It's simply not them. This is the ultimate, this is as close as you can get to doing an animated movie in life action, in real life. Because you get a big paycheck and then you go see the movie and you're like, well, that's not even me. I'm getting paid all this money. It's not even me on the screen. But the movie progresses, and I'm going to try to plod through this. It's as tedious as the film itself, but I'm hoping you're energized by my anger at this thing, that Uma Thurman and John Glover are yucking it up out in the rainforest, and Bane is there, and you get to see him create. And poor Jeep Swenson, the guy who played Bane, I remember when the movie came out, they made such a big deal that his dream in life was to be a Batman villain. And here he is. He's Bane. He's growling. And the poor guy died 2 months after the movie came out. At least he lived his dream, and maybe he was shielded from all of the awfulness that the press did when the film came out, because this movie was universally panned by everybody, and rightfully so. And the funniest is the aftermath, where George Clooney had stated that he had played the whole thing as if Bruce Wayne was gay. And if you watch the movie knowing that, he is. The scene where Elle Macpherson tries to get her to marry her, he basically tells her, hey, I do a lot of things that don't involve you and you don't want to know about it. I'm not the marrying kind. And the subtext is, I like men. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we've never explored that side of Batman, have we? Oh, there were the allegations. What's he doing with that young man, right? That young Robin is in danger. And Clooney does have some fun with the role by calling Robin Dick a lot. We're not going to do that tonight, Dick. And it's so obvious what he's saying. Again, it's a children's movie, isn't it? It's made for children. Yeah, sure it is. It is. We're going to keep everybody entertained. Uma Thurman's the only woman in any Batman movie to appear in a crop top and dance around like it's really sexual. The whole movie's really weirdly sexual in a way that's uncomfortable, knowing that they were aiming for kids. Poison Ivy's butt is shown off in 2 or 3 scenes. She wears rubber for most of the movie, where you're accentuating all her curves. It opens with, you've seen the scene where you see Batman and Robin's butt, and then their crotches are put right in screen as they're getting dressed. It's all very fetish. Like, there's a lot of fetish work going on in it, from leather and rubber and it's just weird, but not in the entertaining dark way that Catwoman was portrayed. Instead, Uma Thurman plays Poison Ivy as if she's Mae West. And I love Uma Thurman. She's been amazing in movies. What is she doing in this film? Hey, come over here, Batman. Like, who talks like that? What's going on? Why is she a caricature? And she keeps blowing the pheromones from her hand, this pink dust that flies around everybody. And I swear the first time I saw it, I thought they were like in the cartoons. When a magnet or really good food manifests itself in a cartoon as hands, and they're beckoning the whoever it is to come closer, come close. I swear to God, that's what I thought was going on. But watching it again, like, it's just, I don't know what it is. Pheromones, and they're supposed to be taken in by her, and Batman and Robin, who were already fighting. Now remember, this is again where we have to take Akiva Goldsman to task, because at the beginning of the movie, Batman and Robin are already in conflict. It's not as if they have this, we're a team and we fight alongside each other, and then Poison Ivy shows up and she's wedged between them, and there's the conflict. Because that's in there. That is in the movie. But they're already in conflict, so it comes off as, again, too many cooks in the kitchen. Too many plots going on. Well, what's the conflict? Is the conflict that Bruce Wayne won't trust Dick Grayson, and that's why he's angry? Or is the conflict that they're both wowie-bowied by Poison Ivy's pheromones, that they're fighting over her? Which is it? And in a movie where Batman and Robin surf out of the sky down rooftops and defy all known laws of logic. Not only do we not have logic in gravity and space, but we have no logic in how the characters are acting with each other. And I think that's why this movie comes off so bad, because it's not just one of these things that derails it. Instead, it's everything. Everything is derailed. Nothing is the same tonally in the movie from one scene to the next. 1 minute, it's a goofy scene of whatever. There's goofiness abound in it, and then in the next scene there's goofiness in that. In one scene, Alfred is portrayed as Max Headroom, where he's moving back and forth on a computer screen and his words are stuttering, just like Max Headroom. What? Whose idea was this? But that goofiness, and then right on top of it, there's a scene where Bruce Wayne is talking to Alfred, and he looks across the room and sees himself as a young child, and Alfred is reading a book to him, and he remembers that amazing moment they had together of bonding, and well, what is the movie about, man? I ask Akiva and Joel, what's the movie about? Because none of these scenes connect to each other. It's one illogical scene, and then they take a left turn in the next scene, and then a right turn the next. Nothing adds up. Conflict everywhere. There's conflict between Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne when the movie starts, right? But there's also conflict in that, for some reason, in this film, Poison Ivy, whose goal it is to have the world overrun by plants and turn the whole world into the rainforest, teams up with Mr. Freeze, whose ultimate goal is to turn the whole world into snow and ice. Well, how can this be? How can these guys get together and go, well, my plan is to have the plants take over. Well, my plan is to freeze everything. Well, what is it? You can't have both. You can't have both. It's either one or the other. How can the script be about both? Trying to dissect this movie is it's like Inception. It's a movie. It's a crappy movie within a crappy movie within a crappy movie. Because there's so many layers of why it's bad that you're not sure which is the defining layer of badness. Which is the disease? I know that this guy had 10 diseases, doctor, but which one killed him? That's what it is. That's what it is. And there's the subplot of Batgirl races motorcycles, and she's Alfred's niece, but not really. He was friends with her mom, so she called him uncle. It's all muddy, and we're not really certain. And then people react to Alicia Silverstone as if she's unbelievably good looking, and you're like, wait a minute. Listen, I'm not going to buy this ever again. This is the last time I'm going to buy anybody in a superhero movie looking at a girl like that and oohing and awing. Oh, wait a minute. Spider-Man does the same thing, right? Poor Peter Parker's bamboozled by the amazing, colossal good looks of Kirsten Dunst. What? Again, everything's illogical. Gotham City is 10,000 stories high with freeways running everywhere. Mr. Freeze and gang lead Batman and Robin on a chase through the streets and down a giant arm where they launch themselves off a giant hand, the fingers. This really happens. Batman wrecks the Batmobile yet again. It's frozen. It wrecks. And the only reason it's frozen and it gets wrecked is so he can drive something new. It wasn't like in Batman Returns where it was a plot device to destroy the Batmobile for a real reason. This is just, we've had 40 minutes of this car. It's time to destroy it and get something new. Oh, great. So that in the finale, he can have this big white snow vehicle that they only use to drive down the street for one tiny action scene. It's ridiculous. What about the fact that Mr. Freeze keeps stealing diamonds because the diamond-powered lasers keep him cold? Every single movie I have ever seen featuring a laser, starting with Goldfinger. Lasers are hot. They're always portrayed as hot. This is a throwaway line. Well, he uses the diamonds to power the lasers to keep him cold. And then you just move on past it. Nobody stops and says, what? No, wait a minute. I've seen movies. Lasers are hot. When are they cold? This laser's cold and it's run by diamonds? And he keeps having to put diamonds in his suit? Oh, give me a break. And how is it at the end when, spoiler alert, Mr. Freeze is captured and he ends up being Poison Ivy's cellmate wearing his diamond-powered armor? Who's paying for that? What taxpayer's getting that bill? Well, he needs diamonds every day to power his armor to keep him cold. I don't know. Maybe get him an ice chest then. It might be cheaper. I don't know. This film features such bewildering moments as Robin being strangled by vines and pulled underwater. And if you've got this movie, you've got to watch this scene, because they didn't have footage of him coming up and then going back under the water. So instead, they just rock the footage back and forth. They rock the footage. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. It's so obvious what's happening on screen. They're just rocking the footage back and forth because the water goes backwards. The water goes backwards. Are you kidding me? And during that climactic scene, Batman is hung upside down by vines, and Robin's pulled underwater. So it's up to Batgirl to save the day. Now, she becomes Batgirl by one of the worst plot devices ever in a movie. And that's the tapping on a keyboard to get the password scene. How many times do we have to go through this scene before we get it? Just have her get the password from somebody. I don't know. Something. Anything but incorrect password. Incorrect password. One try left. Oh my gosh, she's only got one try left. Let's put the right password in. Oh, she got it. It's just filler. In a movie full of filler. It's filler that's completely unnecessary, as most filler is, but even more so in this case. So she gets in the Bat Cave, and you see Alfred as Max Headroom going, intruder alert, and there's lasers everywhere, but there's no repercussions. It's not like it's a Joel Schumacher movie. Anything could happen. It's not like a cage falls out of the sky on top of her, or the ground opens. I don't know. Or they release bats. Anything could happen. Instead, the programmed Alfred thing tells her, I've been expecting you, child, and I've designed you a costume. What? Catwoman, we saw her make her costume. Alfred's got like some tailor hidden somewhere to make these costumes. And that's the other thing that really bogs this movie down, and that's how accessible Batman is. And at the opening of the movie, the police are calling him for help. They're not even going in until Batman gets there. They need him now. He's like the top cop on the force, right? And Barbara Gordon can get into the Batcave very easily. Nothing's hidden. Batman's he's very accessible, and that's no truer than in the sequence at the big gala ball. Because remember, all four of these Batman movies have to have a gala ball for some reason. Filmmakers in this time period, when they made these movies, were addicted to this sequence. A big, expensive ball. Now, the one in Batman and Robin is beyond the pale because it's bright, it's colorful, it has natives, and for some reason Uma Thurman emerges from a giant monkey suit. Like, it's so stupid. But it culminates in a bidding war over a date with Poison Ivy, like they do for charities. And Batman and Robin are outbidding each other, and it finally gets so high that, and you know what I'm going to say, he pulls out the Bat credit card. And he says, don't leave the cave without it. Well, not only is this stupid, and it's really stupid, but this wrecks everything. In a movie that was already wrecked, this is the fire that erupts after the car is wrecked, where you really better get away because it's going to blow up now. How can Batman have a credit card? Where does the bill go? Who pays the bill? What kind of interest rate does he get? Is somebody monitoring his purchases? How stupid is this? But remember, it's a children's movie. Well, again, even children deserve logic. And they don't deserve things that are just there for that sake. This is not Airplane. In Airplane, it's flexible, moldable reality. So that when you do something completely illogical like the inflatable autopilot, it's okay. It's funny. It's hilarious, as a matter of fact. But when Batman pulls out his credit card in Batman and Robin, it's simply just it's a joke for nobody, because nobody laughed, and if they did, it was for the wrong reasons. Nobody's laughing, Joel. And I know you've moved past it. You've made a dozen movies since then. Big stars, big this, big that. Who cares? Because like Akiva Goldsman says, if you didn't have Batman and Robin, you wouldn't have Batman Begins. Oh, well, you know what? Let's, as a fan base, as a collective Batman fan base, let's all get a card for Akiva Goldsman, a big thank you card, and mail it to him and say, you know what? Thank you so much for the cinematic mess that is Batman and Robin, so that Batman could go away for 7 years from the movie theater so that we could get Batman Begins. We owed Akiva Goldsman a debt of gratitude. What a humanitarian to do this to us. This is the equivalent of you asked for it. This is the equivalent of you wore the wrong outfit and you were asking for it. Are you kidding me, Akiva Goldsman? Are you joking? All we wanted was a good Batman movie. And they had a fifth one planned right out the gate. They had a fifth one planned. When this one's title changed from Batman Triumphant to Batman and Robin, they had that Batman Triumphant title ready to go. I would guess either summer 99 or summer 2000, they were going to unveil the whole cast returning to battle the Scarecrow. And they had a lot of big names. Jeff Goldblum was rumored to be the Scarecrow. Howard Stern was rumored to be the Scarecrow. But this movie was just so bad, and I know that the merchandise just floundered, that Warner Brothers was like, we're not making that. The Batman topic is off limits. We're not going to do it. And they turned their attentions to Superman, and they spent all that money not only on the Tim Burton version, but the J.J. Abrams version, and everybody got paid for movies that didn't get made. And I think we can all thank Batman and Robin for that. So we do have things to thank for it, Akiva. We have lots to be thankful for your big turkey of a movie, dude. But you showed us, because you wrote Da Vinci Code. You took a really entertaining book and made one of the most drab, boring movies I've ever seen. The book is a breakneck speed chase through Paris, and the movie is just Tom Hanks in a bad wig running around, and all the weight of the book is just lifted out. It's not even there. That's all Akiva Goldsman does. He's a screenwriter vampire. Because if there's anything good in the source material, Da Vinci Code, Batman, he's going to suck the life right out of it. All the fun and the life. And it's funny to say he sucked all the fun out of it, because Batman and Robin should have been fun. If that's the movie they were going to make, it should have been fun. And it's not fun. It's not fun at all, because every scene that involves fun and frivolity is backed up by, like I said, another illogical scene of terror, of things that shouldn't be in the movie. It shouldn't be there. When John Glover
pushes Uma Thurman into the chemicals to kill her, like he's going to murder that woman. He's already turned the little wimpy guy into Bane, like in a horrific Frankenstein-looking scene, and it's followed up by pushing her into the chemicals. Like, this is a violent movie. It's not for kids. Oh, I'm sorry. It's for kids. It's a kids movie. But it's not. You know, because kids don't want that. And no joke, in a few of the scenes, there's even cartoon sound effects. You know, when they when Batman and Robin throw something at the bad guys in the museum, it actually goes like ring, makes a little cartoon noise. Whose idea was that? Was it the guy who put all those reaction shots in those James Bond movies? Another nod to the Hollywood Saloon, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It exists. You can watch it. It's a big bore fest. You know, everybody's best intentions were destroyed in this movie. There's a scene where Mr. Freeze is leading a sing-along of He's Mr. Freeze-Meister from the Year Without a Santa Claus movie. And excuse me, he's wearing fuzzy slippers and smoking a cigar. How is he smoking? How is Mr. Freeze smoking? He can't be in normal air. He has to be kept at a certain temperature to stay alive. He's smoking. I know Arnie smokes, so that's why it's in there. But how does Mr. Freeze smoke? And why are his henchmen using TV dinners on forks that are frozen still and pretending to lick them and eat them, singing along, He's Mr. Freeze? What? What's going on? What's... See, there's that kids movie thing. That's definitely kids movie. You know what's not kids movie? When Batman and Robin are fighting over Poison Ivy and Batman actually says to Robin, I want her so bad I can taste her. That's an actual line of dialogue from that movie. Akiva Goldsman, ladies and gentlemen. Dialogue. You know what? He's not a writer as much as he is a wordsmith. He's a wordsmith. And you know what? You know what the biggest thing? Not only is Akiva Goldsman not in any way apologetic for his movie, but even more despicable is the woman who does all the production design on it. And in that documentary I watched, to her, this was a fantastic movie, and everything they did was a home run. And you're struck by how pompous she sounds, pontificating on and on about all the production design. It's like, wait a minute. Did you watch this movie? Because you know what? I bet on set it was amazing. I bet these sets in person were so impressive, so large, and so overpowering that you must have felt like, wow, it's all real. How amazing. But you know what? Unless you're building a theme park, it don't count. Because what only counts is what's on the screen. And what they did with all those amazing sets and model work and props and cars and motorcycles and costumes doesn't add up to anything good and anything worth reminiscing about. The only thing that anybody should be reminiscing about was their paycheck. Because that's all it was. Everybody got paid. Every executive... Akiva got paid, Schumacher got paid, all the stars got paid, and Kenner got paid because once those toys are shipped, the check's in the mail, right? They don't care if it goes to clearance. Now, they do care if they're not replenishing over and over and over again to get as many figures into the market as possible. But when you make an uninspired toy line based on a drab, uninspired movie, what are you going to do? And isn't that the key word? Isn't that why it's so sad that a movie with so much color on the screen and so much talent is described so offhandedly as drab? That's the part that's so bad. That all the best intentions of everybody involved in this turkey added to nothing. Added to a movie that people walked out of. The funniest thing I can say about Batman and Robin is that when it came out in 97... I had a friend who knew how to get good bootleg movies. You know, this is back when you had to go down to downtown LA. There was no internet, no downloading, no Pirate Bay, no BitTorrent. If you wanted a movie, you drove down to LA and you looked for the guys on the street corner with the boxes of videotapes. And this girl, Michelle, she used to come back with every movie. Now, she'd had all kinds of major releases, right? And the way they got them was they sent somebody in the theater with a video camera, and they just taped it. So it was flickery. Sometimes it was crooked. Almost every single time people were walking back and forth, and you know, their shadows looked like Mystery Science Theater. Or they would laugh and cheer at the movie, and it was kind of distracting. But you know, if you wanted to relive it before it came out officially, that was your only way. And I'm not saying pirate movies. That the guy in the corner with the videotape is long gone from the pop culture landscape, right? But she got a copy of Batman and Robin, and she brought it to work. And I worked at a place where we were doing a show and acting, and there was a lot of downtime. And in the downtime, we would watch these movies. And we were struck because out of all the movies that she had brought in, Batman and Robin was crystal clear, and there was nobody in the theater. And it was quiet, so you only watched the movie. So it didn't make the movie any better. But it was weird and striking in how different it was from the other bootlegs. So we just assumed, as we're watching it, that whoever this guy was with the video camera, that he had managed to get an empty screening, which would have been amazing because she had this videotape not 5-6 days after release. You know, I'd already seen it in the theater, so I wasn't, you know, running to watch her videotape. But if it's on, you know, what are you going to do? Maybe it's better. Some movies get better at home. You know, Austin Powers, I hated in the theater. At home, I thought it was hysterical. Watched it 1,000,000 times. But we're watching this copy of Batman and Robin, and no joke, at the end, the entire audience got up and left. It was a full house. There wasn't a chuckle. There wasn't a guffaw. There wasn't a cheer. The entire audience sat stone-faced while this thing unspooled on the screen. And if that doesn't say it all, nothing does. An opening week audience on a big, mega franchise movie, and nobody says a word. And everybody walks out of the theater with their head down like, what just happened? Hey, it's Batman and Robin, kids. It's for kids. It's a kids movie. Well, as you can probably tell, I'm running out of voice, and we're going to put this episode to bed. It's an entire hour plus devoted only to Batman and Robin. We may take a break next week from the Batman episodes and come up with something different. Who knows? I don't know. I've got a few episodes in the can, but I'm always recording new ones. So we will keep the 91 Reasons journey going, folks. I hope you're along for the ride. I hope you like what we're doing here. We're trying to do something a little different than some of the other podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I hear a lot of people laughing at jokes that aren't funny and saying they're going to talk about a topic and then not talking about it. So I'm trying to be different here. You know, I just had a conversation with a guy at work. When I told him what I was doing, he was like, "Well, who's your co-host?" And I said, "I don't have a co-host." "Well, you got to have a co-host." I said, "Why?" "Well, you got to have someone to bounce ideas off of and talk to." And I said, "Well, I don't need that. I'm just talking to myself. I'm talking to myself over an hour at a time about movies because I'm passionate about it. Because I will have episodes eventually with somebody else in the room, and you'll listen and you'll see you'll hear they're a different dynamic. A conversation is completely different in tone to what I'm doing sitting here talking. And I don't know if I could get my points across with somebody else in the room. Now, it's going to be fun doing those episodes because I've got some really fun people lined up to come in and sit with me to do these episodes. But the main staple will always be just talking about movies, the emotions that they bring up in you, the emotions that you felt when you saw them for the first time, and then maybe when you saw them for the 100th time on home video, on disc, on download, Blu-ray, whatever, right? Because that's what makes it different. That's what makes what we're doing here different. In that, if you want the movie review of the week, go somewhere else. because I've yet to do that, right? The only thing I've done in any kind of topical manner was talk about Comic-Con, because I had just gotten home and I was excited to talk about it. And eventually, I will come across that movie that comes out, and I have to rush home and talk about it. And it would have been Guardians if I'd been in a better place when I was doing this podcast. If Guardians had come out this week, I'd be right on top of one, But I wasn't steady enough to do that. So eventually we'll do something current and topical, and that'll be a completely different dynamic, because the movies that I'm talking about, the experience that I'm talking about, are things that have been with me a long time. So when I talk about them, they've been distilling in my head for so long that verbalizing them comes naturally, and there's a lot of passion in it. I like to talk about that. I like to talk in general, So, hey, this is Jeff Tucker. This is 91 Reasons. The best way to support the podcast, like I always say, is go on iTunes, subscribe, tell your friends, share the link, go on Facebook, like the page, share the page, all that amazing social media stuff that can be done with just a click, Stop clicking about Blackfish for 10 seconds and instead click about something positive and share the 91 Reasons goodness all over the world. And we're so happy to see on Podomatic that we've got people in Ghana, New Zealand, France, UK, Canada, USA, all listening to 91 Reasons. Hey, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with a whole other episode about something crazy to talk about. This is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?